safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to what is an exceptionally warm afternoon. This hippo certainly has the right idea as it lolls about in the cool water of Gowrie Dam. Anyway, before we get into all of that, my name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Morgan this afternoon, and it is a very warm welcome to Djuma. Hopefully, wherever you are, you're having a good day, and that you are sitting with your feet up and ready to go on an adventure. Remember that we are coming to you live from South Africa, and so we'd love to hear from all of you. You can send us your questions or comments. It's always greatly appreciated when you do. It certainly makes time go that much faster, and you can do so on hashtag WildEarth on Twitter at FC, in the comments boxes of the various streams that we, or platforms that we stream to, as well as kids. You can send your questions to kidsquestions at wildearth.tv. Right, so the plan for this afternoon is to, well, firstly not get skin cancer and die of dehydration, so we're going to try and keep it to rather shady areas, but what we're going to do is we're going to check quickly Gowrie Dam, and then I want to jump down the Mulawati and head down and see if we can't find any sign of this leopard that was seen here last night on the dam wall. I don't know if anyone ID'd the leopard that was seen last night on the dam wall, but if somebody did, maybe FC, if you can let us know. But maybe if it's Shasha, he might just be lying up somewhere in the Mulawati. So we'll check there. Failing that, I don't know. We'll see how we go and see what comes up. But that's kind of the sort of plan. And then maybe Marips later. What do you think, Morgan?
Oh, there's more flamingo.
You found a swimming monitor lizard. Oh, well done. Looks like Jonty's going to look in 5 minutes. Jonty, everybody is, I mean, if you are watching now, you're in for a treat. He's going to be a wallowing beast in what I can only describe as a cesspit of sludge, and I don't even want to know what's in that water, but he says he's going to go wallow, so that should be entertaining. In fact, we might follow up on that at some point, see if we can get a swimming giraffe rolling around in the mud. It'll be the first mud wallowing giraffe one's ever seen. Anyway, Morgan, let's carry on, because it is beastly hot sitting in the sun, and there's very little shade on this dam wall. We just wanted to start with something that was in the water to fool ourselves into thinking that it wasn't hot out here. There's at least a breeze. That's the one kind of, what would we say, consoling factor, that we're not going to die too much if we're in the shade. The breeze is at least blowing, and it's not exactly a cool breeze, but it's not too hot either. The weather's supposed to change during the course of the evening, so I'm pretty sure the wind will pick up around sunset, and then it should blow in some cooler overcast weather, and there's even forecast of rain, I think. Not tomorrow, the next day. What is tomorrow? Thursday, Friday, I think, is forecast for some rain, so that'll cool things down quite nicely. I'm just driving slowly along this edge of the drainage line on my right hand side, because Shasha, the few times that I've seen him on this area, and it's only been I think twice now, he's hung around in this little drainage section. There's lots of nice shady little spots that he can find, and I'm sure if he just finds a little shady slightly raised that he can catch the wind, that's where he would like to be. I think most of our leopards will be in that situation, so we'll try and see if we can't scratch him out somewhere here. Anyway, I've been saying that it is beastly hot. Let's send you across to our weather map so you can see just how hot it is this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Djuma. We're just having a look. That is where I'm going to mud wallow shortly. But welcome. My name's John T. We've got Darren on the camera, and we are just having a great old afternoon. Looking at it now, I've got to tell you, I'm not so excited, but I did say I would do it, so I guess there's no point backing out now. I think it said, what, 35? 36 or something. So it is cooking, so we'll definitely be going from shady spot to shady spot and seeing what we can turn up. Okay, well, let's find a spot where I can park in the shade and get ready for this mud wallowing segment. We'll just have to figure out, because I can't go in there obviously with a microphone in my ear, or earpiece.
Seems like Rusty's got a little issue, so you're back with us on Wendy. We're just checking an old two-track that runs in the Mulawati, but there's a lot. Oh, shame, girl. What's happened to your leg? Somebody's chewed all over her leg and she's not moving very well at all. Oh, that's going to be, I'm afraid, hyena food. Hyenas these days are hunting so effectively that impala like that. Come on, Wendy. You think it's going to go, Morgan? There we go. Say when? Is that good?
Yeah.
Perfect. So unfortunately, like I say, when they got legs are damaged like that, you can actually see the bite marks and wounds. Now that sort of damage is actually not really cat damage. It's very seldom that a cat's going to grab on the back leg and chew the back leg like that. If you are sensitive and you don't like seeing animals in pain, then probably now's not the time to watch. But that's very typical of hyena, grabbing and trying to just hold on and kind of pull them down using that. But you can see how it's struggling a little bit. It's lost a lot of condition. It's also dropping a few pellets there. And you can also see how fast it's breathing. So not probably in very good shape. And any predator that comes across this, whether it be leopard, lion, cheetah, wild dog, hyena, is going to see that and think, well, that's the meal for me. It will not have the ability to be as fleet-footed as other impalas. I mean, you can see how it's walking and how skinny it's become. And like I say, the hyenas have been hunting a lot in this area lately, so I'm pretty sure they'll eventually catch this little one. If not, one of the leopards should be able to grab that fairly easily. Shame little impala. All right, let's leave it there. I don't want to watch it too long. Don't like seeing animals that are hurting like that. But it is natural. It is the way things go out here. Not every hunt is successful, and not every hunt manages, when they do grab the animal, to actually kill them. So sometimes you get these situations that take place. It's never nice to see, but it is unfortunately part and parcel of wildlife. It's, you know, a lot of people often say, well, why would you show that, or why would you see that? And the reason is that it's what's out here. Our jobs are to show you as much of the natural world as we can, and that means that there's going to be super cute, wonderful sightings of little cubs playing and things like that. But in order for those cubs to survive, or those young animals, things have also got to go the other way at some point. So, you know, it is part and parcel of life here. I think it sometimes is a good sobering of just how difficult it is. So I believe you guys are still waiting for an ID on that leopard on the dam cam. I think it'll be quite tricky because I watched the footage and it's quite far away, so difficult to see, but it didn't look, just the kind of general overall appearance to me didn't look like Kalamba, and it looked too small without a big dewlap for Mulawati, so my guess is Shasha. I could be completely wrong though. The dam cam can be tricky, and the quality of it at night makes it hard to actually see what's going on. So I'll quickly check here in front. Can't actually drive any further than this. We have to exit out here and then carry on. But I just want to check here in front purely for a track purpose, because this is an area where if Kalamba maybe wants to den, she might use. So just want to see if her tracks are around and if she's been kind of moving through this section. Doesn't seem like there's anything there. So I just wanted to check on the sand here. If she's denning or something like that, you will see lots of her footprints moving around. So it's that time now to start checking if we can find any sort of den sites for her, especially because I haven't seen any tracks of her in the last few days, like nothing. And even though I haven't been on camera, I was at Djuma for 8 nights before this, and at Timbeta, and we only saw her once, and then no tracks for her again after that. I found one set of female tracks on Buffalo's Hook that I thought maybe could be her, but they had been driven over, so it was difficult to know if it was. So I wonder if she hasn't actually started denning now, and that's why there's so few signs of her. But wherever she'll be denning, she'll have to use water at some point, especially in heat like this. So that should give us a good indicator of where she is, because she should have to travel to water, drink, and then travel back at some point. So we just need to find the area that she's utilizing and then go from there. I suspect it's going to be somewhere on the east though, somewhere Torchwood, that area. Right, so no sign there. I think what we'll do is we'll just carry on a little bit further and then we'll go back into the Mulawati just to check at Spaghetti Junction. If there's no tracks from there, I might go up sort of Ngala Road side, see if there's anything hanging around there or any sign of anything moving around, and then maybe start slowly heading eastwards, see if we can't catch up with Mareeps somewhere in that area. So that's the plan. Let's see if we have any luck.
This thing's gonna get muddy for you. Good afternoon, everybody. So, I'm in this beautiful mud wallow. It's actually quite pleasant, I must be honest. Like natural sunscreen, I'm sure I'm going to have the most beautiful skin when I get home. There's like these little pockets of cold air that bubble up that are pretty cool, so I'm doing like my best I don't envy who's going to be washing these shorts. I think I'll have to throw them away. Yeah, you can definitely see why the animals come and do this. I'm having a good time. I think people must request that Darren comes to jump in here. Either he must come in or he must tell us a story on camera. It is pretty cool though to see down here. There's obviously tons of tracks, little bird tracks, there's insect tracks. I saw some genet tracks just now, but then I just wallowed right over them. So I'm not sure how long I'm supposed to lie here for. If anyone, I don't know, maybe I can do a story here from the mud. If anyone wants to send in some topics, I'll happily do that. I hope you guys are just watching that some beast doesn't come from behind me.
Can you wrap?
Well, I'm just going to stay here in my natural mud spa.
I wish I could be an elephant right now and just go storm that parade, run in there and just see the panic on Jonty's face if a big bull elephant arrived. It would be hilarious. I was thinking about it earlier. You know, imagine being one of the anti-poaching unit that patrols around, and you know, you generally stay quite well hidden, so people don't even know you're there. And the things that they must see, like random people wallowing in mud on an afternoon, must think to themselves, what is wrong with these people? And anyway, at least Jonty's having fun. Morgan, do you want to go mud wallow?
I think I'm alright.
You think you're alright? Oh, wonderful. Yes, I'm alright too. Any other day you would have said yes. Oh, wonderful. Tomorrow is another day. I shall ask you again. Although I won't be with you tomorrow, so 2 days' time. And I'll ask you again. Will you be on Rust? Yes, I will be with you tomorrow. I'm swapping cars. Yay! I'm not going to be on Wendy anymore. I'll make my day. Yeah, that's also true. Morgan's saying that Jonty better not leave a mess. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get into a mud-caked Rusty tomorrow morning. But that's okay. A little brush should sort that out pretty quickly. Can you imagine the things living in that water? I've seen a lot of buffalo poo in there, and elephants and various other animals too, so it cannot smell very good, and which is probably not very healthy either. In standing water like that, you can often get things like bilharzia that can be in it, and it's not the nicest thing to get. Bilharzia is caused by a little freshwater snail. Are we going to have words with Jonty? Let's see. I don't know. No. Luckily for him, this is a hyena, because he said to me he didn't find tracks for the leopard, and I thought maybe I just spotted the leopard track coming across, and I was going to give him a hard time for missing the track this morning, but he didn't miss the track. He was on point, so we're all good. But it's weird, because that leopard crossed over, and normally when they cross over, you know, this area here, we pick up the tracks pretty easily. But there doesn't seem to be anything kind of coming southwards. And there's a lot of impalas and nyala behind the dam wall. Not sure where that cat went. Maybe it hasn't gone far at all. Maybe it's hanging around Timbeta somewhere. Just cross straight over that section or in towards quarantine. It's possible. Definitely think if I was an animal, I would not be where I am right now in the sun. I think drainage line is certainly a lot shadier and a lot better. Kelly, so look, I mean, we often throw out words like, oh, it will be Tlalambas tracks or something like that. And we don't, a lot of the time it's not with 100% certainty that you're saying it. You're saying it based off a couple of reasons, and mostly because of where you are. So like if, let's say I found a female leopard track here, the options would really be kind of Tlalamba. I mean, very, 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 very unlikely would be Sabui, but really this is the only Tlalamba that walks around this section. So you kind of go off that a lot of the time, and then there's certain individuals that have quite sort of characteristic little markings on their tracks, and so in the right kind of substrate you can pick it up. So for example, there was a male leopard here many years ago, and he had a little scar on his paw, on one of his paws, that had a little X shape. When he stood in the right substrate, if it was like fine sand, then you would see that little X scar on the paw print. So then you knew it was him. But a lot of the time we kind of having an educated guess rather than a definitive, like we know for sure it's that animal. And it's mostly based off where you are, routes that those animals like to take. So all of these cats have their own ways and their own means to get around the reserve. So, you know, they'll utilize certain pathways and things like that. And so when you see the tracks there and you've seen that animal use it before, you kind of, with a bit of sort of foresight, can think, okay, well, it'll probably be that individual, but it's never 100% certain. Well, not for me personally. I'm not very good with that kind of thing. I mean, there's trackers out there that are supremely good, that can do it, and then it's normally guys that spend a lot of time on foot tracking the same animals. They start to notice subtle differences. But yeah, for me, if you get paw prints that are all very similar size, it's quite difficult to tell who's who with certainty. You also, you know, size is also one thing. Like Cara, for example, she's just got much smaller feet than everybody else. So you know when you see her track that it's her because of the size of that paw print, versus Shitulu, versus Kalamba, versus Tandi. She's still the smallest of the female cats that we see here. I don't know if anyone's driven here today. So a lot of you are asking about how the Masai Mara was. I was there recently now, what is it? It was last month. It was amazing. I had a wonderful time. I had 3 wonderful ladies that were with me on the trip. 2 Dianes and Maggie, and yeah, we had a really good time. We saw a lot of stuff. So we had really good leopard sightings when we were staying in the Triangle. We saw the Salt Lick female and her cub. We saw Romy and her cub. And I forget the other leopard that we saw, but down near Main Crossing. So leopard sightings were good, lions were good, we saw Marsh Pride, saw the Sausage Tree Boys, which was really nice. So the old Daniel Pike male with the 5 Sausage Tree Boys. Unfortunately, that male subsequently was killed a few days after I left. I don't know by who or why, but it was nice to see them. The Mara is just such an epic place. I love going there, and you know, it was nice because it was still busy. It was busier than I thought it would be, given, you know, the time of the year that we're in, or the times that we're in. But it's just such an epic place, and if you don't want to see a lot of people, you can do things that sort of negate that. So we had a lot of sightings that were on our own, or very few cars, which was wonderful. And then we went up to Naibosho, which is a conservancy, sort of opposite side of the Mara system from the Triangle. Very interesting place. It's community land that's then been turned into tourism, so you have a bit of a mix of community-based things, so like cattle and sheep and goats and them grazing them, and then in amongst all of that you've got wildlife. It's a pretty weird dynamic, but an amazing one, and the density of lions in Naibosho is just absolutely ridiculous. We had so many lions there, it was actually pretty silly at times. And then good cheetah as well. We had Kuleti and her 3 little cubs a number of times, which was amazing. So yeah, it was a really, really good trip with the Mara. Like I say, if you've never been, go. It's a very, very special place and hugely beautiful. All right, exactly what I was looking for. Kalamba's tracks. I think it's her. I don't know of any other female that's walking here. And these tracks are on top of an elephant bull from today. Alright, I want to go and check somewhere quickly with these tracks. But yeah, the Mara is absolutely amazing. I don't know if you can get the track, Morgan, but if you just go straight over the bonnet where the elephant dung is, just in front of it, you'll see there's an elephant footprint, and then there's kind of coming more towards the bonnet, there's another elephant footprint, and in the elephant track you can actually see, so come down a little bit. I know the bonnet of the car is there. So I'm trying to see if you can see it clearly, but yeah, so in the sort of bottom part of the there, around there, those are all leopard tracks. I know it's really difficult and very obscure. Let me just turn slightly so you can see them. So yeah, Mara was epic. I'm looking forward to going back next year again. I'll be guiding a couple trips into the Mara again next year. So hopefully we'll be spending some decent time. Alright, so you can see there's one there. It's pretty nondescript, but that's back of the pad, toes coming forward. And then if we come back from that one, along the grass edge, there's another track that's just there, yeah, where you are now. So that there is another leopard track as well. But where I want to go and check, because I didn't see anything coming down this road further, but I do know that Kalamba was denned in a den site the first time we ever saw her, just here. So I want to just go quickly check. It's a sneaky little option and maybe nothing to it, but maybe she's checking for den sites. So we'll go and have a look. Imagine if we come across her in a cub, that'll cause a stir this afternoon. But let's try quickly. Like I said, they're on top of an ellie track that's pretty good. And it looks like maybe this morning she walked here. Let's find out from Jonty if he actually drove in this area. After he's done sitting in the mud and actually deciding to do some work, yeah, we'll get hold of him. Alright, let's just check up ahead here. We're just going to go off-road a little bit to a little den site where, like I say, Kalamba was kept and where we've had Thandi with cubs on 2 separate occasions. So maybe Kalamba's looking at that as a potential den site. So I just want to check that, see if we have any luck.
I have a degree in environmental planning and development. My passion is outdoor classrooms. We are not only grooming the environmentalists of tomorrow, but tomorrow's leaders as well. My long-term goal is for the people of South Africa to learn how to live sustainably, to be able to look after themselves and the environment. So I hope that through environmental education, we are able to get that message to the future generation of South Africa so that they start now and can continue that good practice in the future. Environmental education is critical so that people can live sustainably in the future. That is my long-term goal.
Civilized to just found some black rhino tracks, a mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small. They're somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're gonna walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is that what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Hello everybody. So I'm nice and clean now after my little cool down in the mud. Actually, it's very refreshing. Can definitely see why especially the big beasts go and do it, but I also can't wait to go have a proper shower. I was just getting ready to get settled in there, maybe be joined by something a bit later on. So where Darren and I drove this morning, we were checking for tracks. Matt, I reckon if I had like an open cut or something, it probably wouldn't be a good idea. Or if you had to eat it or swallow some of that, I'm sure you probably would get quite ill. But yeah, luckily I'm cut free and I didn't drink any. But I've done quite a, it sounds weird, but I've mud wallowed quite a few times. And I've not got sick, but it's not to say that you can't. I mean, maybe not the smartest thing to do. Definitely a bit of fun. I was saying, we're going to go, I want to check them loyalty. Any sign of that leopard that walked across the dam, because we checked up here. So I want to check in the drainage line. You can see what we're looking at here. It's a perfect place for a leopard to go and hang out. You can see there's so much shade. There's a very cool breeze going through there. So that's where I want to check. It's the kind of one spot we didn't check this morning, and we couldn't find tracks on any of the roads either side of the block. So it is beautiful, and I'm sure we'll be able to add some birds to Darren's list as we cruise down here. David, I do. My skin feels... My skin's feeling real good. Like I said, I think I needed to be in there a bit longer. Because it's kind of abrasive. There's obviously sand in there, in that mud. So as you move, it kind of exfoliates your skin. I think I want to start bottling it and selling it. The Djuma mud pack.
What did we get there?
I didn't see it properly. Thanks, Debbie. I don't know if the glowing is from the mud or the heat, but it's certainly feeling tingly. Can you still see it, Darren?
No. It's a bit shady there as well.
A shady.
Maybe not go up on that spot on the top there and see.
Let's try. I'm just going to reposition. I don't want to drop into the in the shade.
Well, it seems like Rusty is having a little wobbly this afternoon and is not wanting Jonty to be on air very much. We checked that den site, nothing in the actual den. I went down and had a little look. She's walked past there and sniffed around, but the track that's there is not the same track as the one coming down. This one's a little bit older. So I'm just thinking now where she could have gone from here. Maybe let's just check Vulture's Nest quickly to see if she went that way. If there's nothing on Vulture's Nest, then we'll come and check Battalia. There's lots of little drainage lines here that she could be using and lots of little hidey holes. Just double check all of them and see if we can find out. Like I said, she might not even be denning yet. She might still have the cubs, inside, but certainly when she starts to walk in these sort of sections, it starts to kind of raise not the alarm bells, but you start to pay attention to it a lot more, because you know that she very well could use these. These are all places that she was housed as a cub, and so there will be familiarity in that. And as we've seen with the likes of Thandi and even Kalamba to a degree, is that previous den sites are still hugely important. Even when they were a cub, they still remember those areas because they were safe there. And so they sometimes, as adults, if they have access to it, will use it as den sites for their cubs. So always worth checking den sites that they were housed in. It can really kind of make a difference. Molly, no. So leopardesses will go into estrus at any time, and it's never the same time for each individual. They literally just go into estrus at any random time, and they can afford to, because unlike antelope species that are often trying to time the birth of their young with the right kind of weather, so like having a young animal now is very tricky because of the extreme nature of the heat and the dryness and lack of food, whereas in summer much easier. Also a lot more places to hide babies in summer, whereas for cats they still can find access to food pretty much all year round, and so that means that they can just come into estrus whenever, have cubs whenever, and still be very successful. Alright, so I just want to check here in case she cut this way rather than towards the drainage. It's very difficult to track like this in a vehicle, especially because I only saw the tracks and we'd already driven there. You know, being on foot is really how you track leopards, but you know, we don't really have an option this afternoon with Rusty being the way it is and nobody else out. So I'm having to do it by vehicle at this stage, which is not great because you do hit tracks and then it's difficult to know where the last track was because you've clipped them. Once the tires go over it, that's the end of it. So there's no more track once the tire is done its job. There's a big jackalberry here, I just want to check. I don't know, at 8 years old, you're asking how tall a leopard is. Well, it depends on the leopard. Every single leopard has a slightly different height. They'll not all be the same. It's like us as people. You know, your mom and your dad, and if you have any siblings or friends, that you're all different heights. And it's the same with leopards. But they can reach a shoulder height of sort of, so what, I don't know where you are in the world, whether you use centimeters or feet, but they can reach about 90 centimeters at the shoulder, and then up from there, even from big males. So you know, it depends on the individual. Like I say, a female will be much smaller than a male, and yeah, it just depends on the individual. I was wondering if maybe her tracks were going to come out. So where we had them is, if you did a direct line, they should come out here. Now Kalamba, historically, and not so much in the last year, but prior to that, when she was younger and had just separated from her mom, this was an area she spent a lot of time in, and she used to cut from Mulawati on my left-hand side, and that goes straight towards where we saw, or just south of where we saw that impala with the damaged leg, and then she would cut across straight here towards Nyala Road and then onto those drainage lines that go towards Buffelshoek Dam. So this area is not foreign to her by any stretch of the imagination, and is a place I always check very carefully when looking for her. Of late though, for some reason this is not an area she spends a lot of time in. Although in saying that, you know, it's not like I've been around a lot tracking her, so it's going to take a few days to figure out where she's moving and what she's actually doing. I apologize if you're staring at the back of my head a lot. It's just the only way to see tracks is to look on the ground while I'm driving, so otherwise I miss them. But she used to slink through these areas here from this termite mound and that torchwood tree through to the right, or vice versa. I'm just trying to think where the nearest water would be for her. Must be... Eugene, so other female leopards that have cubs currently in this area, Tiani in the west, 2. Shadulu's lost hers. We see that Nzatini is trying to mate and have cubs now. I don't think Markham Sava's had yet any, well, I've not heard of any. Then to our south, Sabui's got the 1 now. She did have 2, lost 1. Chava's got cubs. I don't think it's been confirmed how many, but I know 1 has definitely been seen. Nkanyeni is probably too old, probably won't have cubs. Watika too young. Monzo possibly. There was tracks for a female with 2 cubs around Milkberry and Shelley's camp on Buffalo's Hook, which would probably be Monzo. Insele was seen with suckle marks, but no confirmation on number of cubs there. That's it. Tundi obviously has got Marips. Who am I missing? Kara has trying to start mating for the first time. That's it. There's no other females that we know of with little ones. There was also a female leopard that was seen on the Buffalo's Hook Manyaleti boundary that was very skittish, and she had apparently had cubs with her, or tracks with cubs, but that could be Luna. Yeah, that's the only ones at the moment. Still a lot. And most of the females are either mating or have cubs at the moment. I don't think we're going to see another litter of cubs from Nkanyeni or Tundi. Tundi seems to be hanging around with Marips a lot at the moment. But I actually had a really crazy sighting of the 2 of them the other day. It was super cool. Obviously Marips had been left by himself, and Tundi had arrived back, and this has caused him to be a little delinquent, and he was rolling around all over the place and doing all kinds of things. But it was interesting from the point of view that he became very, very, very adult in his behavior. So he was walking around scent marking. He tried to mate with his mom a few times, which I know sounds weird, but that's a sign that he's starting to get a testosterone drive kicking in, and soon that means that he's going to start moving up away from mom and trying to find his own area. And the second thing that he did was he was trying to soar. So it didn't quite come out right, but it was definitely an attempt to soar and try and kind of make himself look all big and brave, which was very interesting. So I think he's developing quite fast, and I wouldn't be surprised if soon mom decides that's it, out. But I don't think she'll produce another cub. It's getting late now for her. She's 15 in a few months, so we'll see how that goes. Anyway, I'm going to do a loop. No tracks coming out this side, so she must have gone that way. We'll take Central all the way through Drakensberg and Battalia, see if we can find any signs of her moving in that area.
I hope Tristan does have a bit of luck, but we are just sitting in the shade in the company of some of these big giants. So it's so funny, we were going to have a look in the Mlawati and we turned around and came back here. Darren said, no, let's go sit here. This is Darren's favourite birding spot in the afternoon. And we stopped here and spotted some elephants, and then I've been trying to drive around to get a better view, and they moved out, and we're back at Darren's spot now, just sort of enjoying the shade with them. It is actually really nice and cool here, especially when the breeze blows through. I'm really hoping that they are going to go and drink or mud wallow. Yeah, Logan, that's a good question. I actually don't know the answer. I'll have to do a bit of reading, but I know, so the Asian elephant that they use, the Indian elephant that they use for work, they know what they can pick up with their trunk. But African elephant, I'm not sure. What do you think?
It's a heavy thing to pick up.
Yeah. Let's see.
Part of a push to the tree.
I mean, yeah, they can pick up, obviously, logs and things like that. At least a couple 100 kilograms. If it's just with the trunk.
Maybe the calf and stuff.
Yeah, it's I suppose in how we see them, we never see anything with an actual weight. But I'll do a bit of reading and see what I can find. So the one thing I'll just see here, it says the trunk's ability to make powerful twisting and coiling movements allows it to collect food, wrestle with other elephants, and lift up to 350 kilograms. And that is heavy. Yeah, that's crazy, huh? It was interesting to see I did visit India, to see guys cruising around on elephants, using them like we would use mechanical instruments to move things. And they're just wandering around with the elephant, moving piles of wood. Oh, he's got in a tricky spot. We had a vervet monkey just jump up into this tree. So while we stay with these elephants, you can have a look at the prize for the Explorer members at Phinda. Just a reminder, you've got up until tomorrow to register as an Explorer to give yourself a chance to win that awesome prize.
Calling all WildEarth explorers, we have a new and frankly awesome travel prize for you to win. andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve encompasses an impressive 28,000 hectares of protected wildlife land in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. As you have seen on WildEarth, andBeyond Phinda showcases one of the continent's finest game viewing experiences and is well known for close-up sightings of the elegant yet elusive cheetah as well as the rare black rhino. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the 16th of September, and you and a friend could be heading to the magnificent Phinda Mountain Lodge, where you will spend 3 nights escaping the real world at this ultimate safari location. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
Well, a lovely prize that in many ways, and hopefully one of you will get lucky and be able to go visit Phinda, beautiful part of the world, particularly that sand forest. It is mesmerizing to go into there and just hear all the sounds, and if you're a birder or you like cheetahs, rhinos, then well, Phinda's the place for you. Right, so no further tracks to speak of with Kalamba, what I think is Kalamba. I'm just going around again just to close out this block, and then we'll know if she's kind of left this block or if she's still inside here. If she's still inside here, tricky because there's a drainage line that runs east-west here that's non-navigable, and then there's a north-south element to it, and they join. So I'll go and just maybe jump off for 5 minutes and just have a little look around there and see what I can find. You know, it's also got to be wary now with her, because if she is denning or if she's looking for dens, she's going to be hot, she's going to be uncomfortable if she hasn't given birth. If she has given birth, you know, she's going to be very wary of this, of how big those cubs are, and so tracking her becomes a little bit more dangerous than it was when she doesn't have cubs. So you've got to just be a little careful with that. I'm not saying that she'll eat me, but she's going to be a lot more defensive of herself and her cubs than she would be if it was just her. So we'll see. Let's see how it goes. And like I said, she might not have even given birth yet, but the last time I saw her, she was heavy and she was starting to show signs of milk glands filling. When that happens, then you know that the cubs are not too far away. And given the lack of sightings of her or even tracks, it would kind of all fit together quite nicely. If she had given birth, it would kind of explain a lot of that. But I forgot to talk about kind of the Mara. You know, a lot of you I know are very much, you know, passionate about the Mara because you've watched it through WildEarth. And for those of you that are fairly new to this channel, you might not have known, but we broadcast from the Mara for a number of years, and it's to go back there is very, very special. You know, it's a very different thing to here in South Africa, and it's got its own, you know, pros and cons like everywhere. But it is just from a scenery point of view, it's so difficult to describe it to people without them going there, and the feeling that you get of just open spaces. And we, you know, the first day that we were there, we landed in at Governor's Airstrip, so you land right into the marsh, the famous marsh where a lot of you might know the marsh pride and the kind of story of that pride that was documented so well for so many years. And then, you know, you land right into the marsh and you start driving towards the camp, and it's just elephants and giraffe and Tafasa waterbuck, and it is things everywhere, you know, and it's just an amazing kind of feeling. And then you've got the smells, and then you look up to the sort of west, and you've got a beautiful Olololo escarpment that comes up, and it has its own unique light that it creates. The escarpment often has a very blue tinge to it, and then you've got the sort of rolling grasslands that are more yellow. And that first afternoon we went out and there was a leopard on a kill, and we went to go and see this leopard on the kill. We found the kill, there was no real sign of the leopard anywhere, and out of nowhere the storm rolled in, massive storm, and it just absolutely tanked down. And the leopard emerged in the rain and kind of came to the kill. But it was just that smell of the rain again, and to see the beauty of that landscape with that storm. It's everything that it makes the Mara special when you see it like that. It's a very, 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 very cool destination. I absolutely love going there. And I know a lot of you follow a lot of the animals up there, so if you do have any questions about certain animals, then just fire them into FC and I'll try and answer about the ones that I know about. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of the characters that we followed are either gone or have moved off, or I didn't see, so I won't have too many updates on some of them, but I'll try and update as many of them as possible. Alright, so let's carry on and see what we can find. Hopefully those tracks will pop out somewhere and we can continue to follow them.
Hi, we are Yaku and Milani. We are from Gauteng in South Africa. We started watching WildEarth last year during the level 5 lockdown, and we've been watching ever since.
Being in nature is one of the greatest feelings. We absolutely love it. Our favorite thing about WildEarth is that the concept is so amazing. We have the benefit of having a wildlife safari in the comfort of your home, especially when you're not allowed to go out. Being part of the Wildlife Explorer program gives us a sense of giving back and contributing to nature. It just makes us feel good because we love it so much. We are so excited to be visiting Ngala. It is obviously, I think for most people, an absolute dream to visit the Masai Mara. We can't wait to go.
Thank you very much for this amazing prize, WildEarth.
WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
We're in the centre of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the water hole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth.
We are still with the elephants here at Djuma. Just absolutely loving this shade. So I believe there's a lot of requests for an ostrich story. I want to know why is everyone so interested in ostriches? But they are funny things. And the sort of story that I was thinking of, I had a group of guests who, I don't know, I don't think they really should have come on safari because all they did was sleep. Literally, we would leave the lodge, or maybe it was because of me, but we would leave the lodge and within 10 minutes they would be sleeping. And then I would get to a sighting and I'd have to literally shake the dad, and then he would wake everyone else up. And then they'd look at the elephant or the leopard, look, take a picture, a selfie, and then go back to sleep. And this was now on the 4th morning of driving these people around. And in these big open plains in the southern part of Singita, there's often ostriches there. And the one female in particular, she's so cool. She walks right up to the car. She comes and stands, and you just have this ostrich head checking you out. And I was there now, and half of the family was awake, and the son was still fast asleep, and they hadn't woken him up. And so he was sitting had his head off to the side, and this this top part of the cap. The ostrich came and it looked at me, and they're tall, so when I'm sitting its head's here, and it looked at me. Then it walked around the car, it looked at the dad, and then it noticed this little pee-pee thing, I don't know what you call it, the top of his cap. And you could see its eye. It was okay, I want to see what that is. And it walked over and just went on the top of his head. So he got such a fright. He thought one of us had hit him, and then when he looked up, there's just this ostrich head, sort of looking at him, and he freaked out. I didn't contain my laughter. I laughed out loud because I thought it was well deserved. He should have been awake on safari. That's my ostrich story. I don't know if you like it.
Story.
Thank you, FC. Huh?
Keep rolling with it.
Like I said, FC, we need to get a button you can press that either plays applause or boos. Get heckled. I have seen an incredible sighting. Whoa, let me just stop speaking. Mariska, that's a very, very good question, and thank you so much for asking it. So the books say around 65 years. So I'd say you could probably push it to maybe 70, but 65 years is probably the average that they will reach. And that's very much dependent on their teeth. So once they've got 6 sets of teeth, and once their final set is worn down, they can't really support themselves anymore with food. And so roughly those sets of teeth last about 10 years. So like my mom always said, look after your teeth and you'll always live long. But I was just going to say, I have had a really cool sighting with an ostrich. Unfortunately, the ostrich didn't survive, but it was being hunted by cheetah, which was a really, really incredible sighting. Unfortunately, their defense mechanism, once a cheetah is holding their neck, not so good. I'm so glad these elephants are coming out a bit. I thought they were going to go down the drainage line. So their nostril is basically at the end of their trunk. That would be their nostril. Oh, Darren, on the money. I mean, can you imagine you could do that with your nose? Yeah, that would be great. I would love to have a trunk. Imagine eating. You could be eating with your hands and just trunking stuff into your mouth as well. It would be amazing. I reckon we've probably got about an hour before that temperature switch kind of goes down. So I think, yeah, about 4:30, that's normally when it gets a bit cooler. I see there's a herd of impala, looks like they want to come down to drink. But I'm very happy sitting here in the shade. It's really, really good. Sometimes the slower you go in the bush, the more you actually see. It's also these sort of moments, like, it's crazy that we're sitting here with these elephants. Oh, I would love to see Tabagumi before I leave, but I know that's a long shot. But any leopard, I'd be happy to see. It would just be nice to see Tabagumi. Always nice to catch up with the leopard that you've kind of seen, from a cub, but now starting to really settle into a territory. But to be honest, it is actually all a spoil. I know that's a cop-out. But like where we're sitting here now, this is crazy. It's like those pinch yourself moments. And I'm actually working, which is crazy. What are they picking up down there? Copied? Oh, Darren's showing us. So that, you can see the back of that elephant's ears. That is their radiator system. So the blood pumps into that, which you can see the ears very, very thin. It cools the blood down and it goes back into the body. I remember reading something once that was saying on like a very hot day they could be pumping as much as 10 liters of blood through their ears every minute, which is insane. Their tusks grow continually, actually. So they get worn down and things when they're taking off bark and things like that. The bulls, their tusks actually sort of grow quite exponentially in the last few years of their life. That's when the growth really kicks off. So if you see an elephant that's got impressive looking tusks in his 20s, you kind of know by the time he's hitting 55, they could be triple the length that they are when he's sort of 20. That's why you'll see sometimes when they break a tusk when they're young, you can almost, it will still, you know, they don't grow it back, but the tusk does continue to grow. So that break will always be at the front, I suppose. Beautiful. We just got an update that Wendy's overheating. Woo. Tristan must treat that lady with care. So that's fine. You get to hang out with us in the shade here a little bit longer. Keep asking questions. It makes it feel a bit more like a normal game drive.
It's a wild dog story. I have a request.
Darren's not allowed to give requests. Darren's requesting some stories as well. Well, you can see how she's using her foot there. It is incredible. When we do get into the do elephants get dental plaque? That is a superb question, and I do not know the answer. I don't know if they get a plaque build-up. That's quite interesting. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm just trying to think, like, maybe because of the stuff they eat, you know, it's so abrasive on their teeth, maybe they don't. Or maybe plaque is just a normal thing that every thing that has teeth gets. No, Darren's just asking if I've seen an elephant being born, but no, I haven't. Welcome back to a shady spot on Djuma, where we are still just enjoying the company of these elephants. Just enjoy listening to some of the birds calling, the sounds of the elephant moving. Welcome back. We are still in the same spot, still just enjoying this elephant's company. I'm just trying to read. Yeah. Darren's playing Guess the Bird for everybody watching. So it's very cryptic because it's obviously it's behind a whole lot of leaves, but you can see a little bit in the tail there that'll give away a big part of the name. We often see them following herbivores as they move around and will fly down and nab up any insects that are disturbed. I'll see if someone has got a good guess for what that is before we tell you what it is. Elephants walk quickly. They can't really change their gait into a run. But most of the textbooks and that say they could reach 45 kilometers an hour, which is frightening for something that is so big. So the cryptic bird challenge, it's a fork-tailed drongo. You drongo. Is that a paradise flycatcher? Yo. I don't know if that's on your list, Darren.
That's my favourite bird. That's a female.
Sorry. Let me show you. While Darren tries to find it. Oh, thank you. FC is just letting me know that a few people did send in answers, and a lot of people got it right, the fork-tailed drongo. Dan, I don't know if you want to come on to this quickly, but that is the bird that just flew up into the tree here, really.
Yesterday as well.
Who, you did?
Yeah.
Ah, very nice.
Can you see it?
No, not really.
Keep an eye out for it.
You're going to head over to Tristan, the car specialist, see what's happening with him.
Janti. Now, car specialist is a very big overestimation of my ability to fix a car. But anyway, what Janti's referring to is the fact that Wendy has just had an absolute meltdown. We were trying to check the Mulawati and Wendy overheated, cut out. Smoke was billowing from the engine. Never really a great sign. And we managed to kind of get her started again, and now I'm just very gently driving her to the nearest waterhole to go and park off and just let the whole car cool. Whether we get it running again after that, I'm not sure, but we'll try our very, very best. Fortunately, that means that our tracking of that leopard is going to have to come to an abrupt halt for now. I'll let Jonty know where the tracks are, and then he can maybe try and go and follow up there and see if he gets any luck and comes right. But sadly, we won't be able to follow where those tracks are. If we do find her, we need a car that works well to negotiate all of that. And unfortunately, at this stage, Wendy is not in the shape. I can actually smell that it's kind of smoking up again now. You've got a white cloud of smoke back there too. Well, hopefully she doesn't spontaneously combust with us in it. And we've already had that once in the last week, haven't you, Morgan? Yeah. Exactly. So hopefully that won't be the case. But Treehouse is not far now, so we'll just get to Treehouse, get into the shade, and just chill there and see what comes down to the water. We'll have to do some stationary waterhole stuff. So you guys are going to have to keep us well entertained and give us lots of questions to talk about or things to talk about, so that we can at least entertain you somewhat while we're at Treehouse Dam. Oh, James, yeah, for sure. There are leopards in the Mara that I haven't seen that I'd love to see. Surprisingly enough, I've never seen fig or figlet. So they would be ones that I would want to see. Now, why is her name escaping me now? She's seen frequently in the national park. Oh, why can't I think of her name now? Something starts with an L. Who else? Well, those are probably the biggest ones. The rest I've been fortunate enough to see, of the well-known kind of leopards there outside. Yeah, I think those would be the ones. Figlets and fig, I think, would be very cool to go and spend time with. Unfortunately, a lot of people want to see them, so they do get quite a number of cars going to them. So I'm scared to even press the brake on Wendy right now for fear of her just cutting out. You can see the white cloud as we reverse. I think you might be able to see it. Just a stump. So yeah, those would be the leopards that I'd want to see. It's tricky there with the leopards because a lot of them have different names according to the different guides, and it's tricky to keep track of who's who there. And everyone seems to get IDs wrong half the time, so not easy to to kind of build up a database of leopards in that area. Anyway, it's not just us out. Ngala has joined us, so let's send you across to them so they can say good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to andBeyond Ngala. Sorry that we're a little bit late this afternoon. We had a few issues with our vehicle overheating in the riverbed yesterday, so we just had to get that sorted out. But we're now out and about, and we have taken a road in the east called South River. And we're just checking a part of the reserve where none of the other rangers have headed off to this afternoon to see what's out and about. My name is Nick, by the way, and behind camera we've got Johan this afternoon for his last drive, so I hope we have an epic drive today and see something very exciting. There was a pack of wild dogs on our eastern boundary this morning, just on the other side of the road, so they're in the Manuleti, but who knows later, we all know dogs and the way they move, there's a good chance they might come onto Ngala. So I think our plan this afternoon is going to be edging towards the dogs, and hopefully they play ball with us and come onto Ngala and we can watch them this afternoon. But we'll just have to wait and see what the update is in that area. It's nice and hot today. It's about 30 odd degrees. Summer's definitely coming. And the reason we've taken this road that we're on is because there's quite a lot of shade. So it's nice for Johan and myself, as well as the fact that you can imagine most of the animals out here this afternoon are still going to be looking for either shade or water. And we're driving just to our left is the Timbavati River at about 10 or 15 meters from where we are. Dan was driving on this road yesterday. I'm sure most of you know Daniel, and he saw a serval, believe it or not. And I think he saw it at about 4:30 in the afternoon, and it just ran off the road and disappeared into the thick bush. But it's a nice area to start drive this afternoon. We'll see what is out and about. Hannah, that is actually a very relevant question for the time being. I think in the last 2 weeks, I've probably seen 7 or 8 black mambas around the property. As it started to heat up, they've started becoming more and more active. Often we find them during the middle of the day lying on the road. And if we're not seeing the actual snakes, there's lots of snake tracks out and about. So there are quite a number of black mambas on Ngala. And at the moment, it's the snake that we are actually seeing the most of. So who knows, if we're lucky this afternoon, we're going to cross over the river, there's some nice big clearings, we might get a mamba on the move, or one trying to just enjoy this afternoon sun. They do tend to be active early morning and late evening, so that's probably our best time to come across them, but especially on a hot day like today, but you never know out here in the bush. It's been a while since I've been on WildEarth, so I'm super excited for the next couple of days. It'll be nice to just do our own thing around the reserve and see what's out there and look for some of the smaller things as well along the way. I think Dyke would have mentioned it a while ago. This is us crossing the Timbavati River now, by the way. That the 3 young males of the Birmingham Pride managed to kill a very large male giraffe. And during that time, I think they were on it for maybe 3 or 4 days, and none of the other members of the Pride managed to find the carcass. No one went and checked there this morning, but I'm pretty sure today's going to be the first day where the whole Pride is on the carcass. Unfortunately for us, there is very, very poor signal in that area, but that's how it goes. So we'll see what else is out and about, and hopefully the next time you'll see us, we'll be at a waterhole.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible.
It's in fact the shadow of the Earth.
It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Europigeal gland is something the hoopoes have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Well, Trias Dam is quiet. Our little lapwing is milling about on the edge of the water, but other than that, very little to show for our effort to come here. I suspect it's still too hot. We drove past a Steenbok just now that is lying in the shade, completely flat, ears out to the side. It looks like it's melted. It looks like a wax figure that is kind of melted onto the ground. So I think everything is still just too warm to be moving around. So they're kind of hiding out in the shady areas, just waiting for the heat of the day just to kind of dissipate a little bit. And then we'll start to see them kind of coming out and doing their thing. But being around water at this time is probably the best place to be. It will allow, a lot of it, allows a good opportunity for animals to come down and drink. We can also do a spot of birding, which is always quite nice. Other than the obligatory lapwing that's generally on the fringes, this dam often has things like hammerkop, grey heron I've seen here a few times. There's a couple of little bee-eaters that mill about here as well. And of course now we're going towards the summer months. There's always an opportunity for sandpipers to start making an appearance. So we can get common sandpipers, marsh sandpipers, starting to come through as well. But alas, at this stage it's just, like I say, quite desolate. It's got a very depressed winter feel to it, doesn't it, Treehouse Dam at the moment? This bare kind of edges and the bush in the background being so dry, it looks very kind of wintry despite the heat. Jade, no, I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't see the breakaways or the actual sausage tree pride, the females. It was just the young males with that old Daniel Pike male. So the rest were around. I know somebody saw them while we were there, but we were in a different area altogether. So unfortunately, we didn't get to pick them up. Yeah, I'm just trying to think which prides we did see in the triangle. We saw a lioness mating with the Bilishaka male. but just the guys weren't sure which lioness she was, or which pride she was from, and we didn't get a great view on her. It's mostly on the male, so I couldn't see if it was the Mogoro pride or if it was part of the Olololos, or if it was part of that breakaway marsh pride that's there, or if it was part of the Rhino pride, which is also in that area. So I'm not sure. And then we had, like I say, we spent quite a lot of time with the marsh pride lions. But the Mara is such a big place, and you forget how big it is and how much space you got to cover. It's difficult if you're not doing like what we do, which is filming, and so you can go every day to the same area and ignore a lot of the other stuff that you come across. Whereas when you're there and you're with guests, that the experience is not about rushing everywhere.
Any changes for the last hour?
Sorry, everybody. Our piece has been destroyed by the giant again. He's shouting in the radio after we've been trying to call him for ages. That's why he's turned on his radio, because I sent him a voice note to say that he's ignoring us. So actually do need to let him know. Maybe he can go follow up on those tracks. John T, come in. So yeah, when you're there with guests, you don't tend to just drive to the area where certain pride is. You might come across hyenas or elephants or buffalo or lions or leopard, and that kind of dictates where you end up going. So you kind of have plans, but the Mara's got so much diversity and so many animals that your plans often get thrown right out the window, and you bump into other things along the way. So it can be tricky to go down, and especially where we were and where the Sausage Tree Pride is spending a lot of its time. They right down sort of in the south western corner of the triangle, and we were up kind of around the northern side. So it's a long trek to get out there. But it was nice down that area, the Salt Lick, and then towards the Tanzanian boundary. Lots and lots and lots of wildebeest and zebra hanging around down there. So it was a very, very, very cool to go and see the triangle again. Always enjoy spending time there. From a photographic / filming / kind of scenery point of view, there's very few places that match it. The light and the kind of clearness of everything is just wonderful. Here it's quite tricky because you've got a lot of sticks and a lot of branches and those kind of things, but there, that soft grassland really does lend itself to beautiful photos. And then because of that also you get the sun coming at very oblique angles, which gives you nice soft light a lot of the time. The one thing I was surprised about this year was the lack of vultures compared to, this actually fits in quite well. Rosemary asking how is the birding in the Mara, but this year the vulture numbers weren't as high as I thought they'd be, but in the Serengeti, so when you went down to the Tanzanian boundary and you looked southwards, there was lots of big columns of vultures there, but they didn't quite come up into the triangle. And the migration in Kenya this year was quite an interesting one. So a lot of wildebeest in the triangle, probably more so than most years, but not a lot of spectacular big crossings. So and all the crossings were quite far south, and Rosemary, I'll get to your question now. They were quite far south, so they were like BBC, Paradise, those areas, rather than Lookout, and so nothing really around Main or Cul-de-sac, Kitchworth. So it was a weird kind of migration season, and maybe that's why the vultures stayed more in the Serengeti side. They had lots of big crossings in the Serengeti this year, and are still having. I saw some today. There are some serious crossings that are happening. But Rosemary, the birding in Mara is spectacular. The nice thing about the Masai Mara is that it's got quite a few different types of habitat for birds. So you've got the escarpment area, which really is only accessible to certain camps. So if you're at Ngama or Marasan or Marangai, those areas will have access to the escarpments, and you get amazing forest escarpment birding there with some beautiful birds like Narina trogons and paradise flycatchers and the likes. So that's really cool. And then you come down obviously into the rolling grasslands, and that brings about its own birds in there. Then you've got the marshy sort of areas which you can find things like crown cranes and little dwarf bitterns and things like that. And then you can get onto the Mara River itself and have those riverine vegetation, where lots of very cool birds occur there, and special ones like double-toothed barbet can find in those little riverine areas. So it's a magic place for birding. If you like birds of prey, it's one of the best places to view birds of prey. Along that escarpment, particularly at this time of the year, a lot of migratory birds coming down from north to south. And so you get huge amounts of interesting raptors that come past, and you'll get martial eagles and tawny eagles and auger buzzards, lots of vultures, so leopard-faced, white-headeds, even Egyptian vulture. So I can thoroughly recommend birding in the Mara as well. Lots of really cool things to see, and especially on the surrounds of it as well. If you get into the forest areas, you can tick off a lot of birds. All right, we'll probably sit here for a little while longer. Like I said, I just want to let Wendy just settle a little bit and see if anything comes down. In the meantime, let's ship you off to Ngala.
Calling all WildEarth explorers, we have a new and frankly awesome travel prize for you to win. andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve encompasses an impressive 28,000 hectares of protected wildlife land in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. As you have seen on WildEarth, andBeyond Phinda showcases one of the continent's finest game viewing experiences and is well known for close-up sightings of the elegant yet elusive cheetah, as well as the rare black rhino. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the 16th of September, and you and a friend could be heading to the magnificent Phinda Mountain Lodge, where you will spend 3 nights escaping the real world at this ultimate safari location. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
So we have managed to find ourselves this very pale giraffe on our way to Clara Dam. And at first glimpse, I thought it was a female, but upon closer inspection, it's actually a young male. I thought it might have been a female just based on the size and the fact that he was so light, but as soon as I had a look at the ossicones, they're a little bit more robust. And there's the bald patches on the top, told me that it looks like a young male. And he was busy feeding on that little combretum just behind him, which you'll see the little leaves and flowers on. It looks like a russet bush willow with yellow flowers on it, and the spring green leaves just starting to come through. It is what we sort of expected this afternoon, being as hot as it is. Animals, shady areas, drainage lines, which we've got just here to our left, and water is where one would expect to look and potentially find some of the daytime animals this afternoon, and true as behold, there was a giraffe. There are some impalas, but they have just moved off. So I think they've moved into the even shadier parts of this drainage line. You just see them moving through at the back there. It looks like quite a reasonable sized herd of impala. When we were driving down this road towards the waterhole, Johan actually pointed out some tracks on the road, and we realized that it was giraffe tracks, and tracks of 2 animals. And just before we found this younger male, an older male ran across the road, and he unfortunately vanished into the thickets. But look how that giraffe's paying careful attention to the impala. Have a look at his tail, flinging and swinging it from side to side. I'm sure there must be some flies and biting insects that are irritating him. And there's even a bird on his neck, just below his ears, or his ear. If you have a look, you'll see it's got just a completely red bill. So it is a red-billed oxpecker. Giraffe tolerating it right up and just below its eye. Quite interesting just to see that giraffe staring in the direction of the impalas with its tail flicking. So, Tom, I don't think there's any particular reason why it is paler. I think it's probably got something to do with the genetics of this individual giraffe. However, when they are younger, they do tend to be a little bit lighter. And as they age and become more mature and bigger, they tend to get darker and darker. But the reason for this particular male to be as light as he is, I think it's just his special genetics. And it's quite cool how he's gone now. He's feeding behind the bush, and you can just see the lighter parts sort of glowing in the sun. And you can imagine if he was standing in the shade behind the bushes there, he would be even more difficult to see. So that's also another reason why shade's a good area for some of the herbivores to be hanging around in, because it does act as cover to a certain extent. The biting flies are even attacking your hand now. But the last couple of weeks on Ngala, we've actually been seeing probably close to the most giraffe I've ever seen on this property before. And it's definitely been a result of the spring flowers coming through. Lots of the knob thorns have flowers on at the moment, sort of coming to the end of their time of flowering. But the russet bush willows as well, spike thorns, the shambok pods. It was quite cool seeing. I saw the other day a big male giraffe putting his head right down to the ground as they do when they drink water, and he was picking up pods from a shambok pod tree, which if I do find one later on today's drive, I'll show you what they look like. But it was a first for me. And you can see how he carefully looks around before he moves into any areas that are a little bit more dense, just to make sure that there's no lions lurking in the shadows. And that's what I was saying a little bit earlier, is when he was looking back towards where the impalas were and his tail was flicking like that, that's often an indicator that the giraffe might be looking at something and he's a little bit nervous or stressed, or he might have spotted something. The first time I saw it, I saw two giraffes standing in a clearing, staring off into a bush, which we know they like to look at things, especially lions and leopards, or any predators, anything that might threaten them. And with the tail flicking, we drove a little bit closer, and there were two leopards in one of the bushes. So it's always a good idea to just have a look at giraffes, even if you've seen lots of them. Stop and watch one and see how it behaves and make sure that it's relaxed with everything that's going on around it. But while that giraffe moves off into the drainage line, I think we're going to lose visual of it relatively soon, or unless he decides to continue up the bank. But I think it might be a good time for us nonetheless to continue towards the waterhole. Clara Dam, I'm sure most of you know exactly what the waterhole looks like and may be quite keen to see what the water levels are like. But we will make our way there and see what is around the waterhole this afternoon.
Okay, so we've just come out of the Mlawati. We did a bit of a mission in there to see what we see. We saw a giraffe and some impala and some steenbok. But now we're getting close. It's 4:15. I think from 4:30, that's when we're going to feel that shift in temperature. We might see a few more things moving around in places that are more accessible. So we are currently on the way to another watering hole to go and see what's happening there. So I can't wait to see this road in summer with all these little mud wallows along here. I can come mud wallowing again. I'm sure at this next waterhole we're going to have some sort of luck. I feel it. Eh? 2 mud prawns. beautiful afternoon.
Well, we're still at Treehouse Dam, just doing a spot of birding. There's a beautiful Birchall starling that's making its way down to the water and to have a little drink. It looks like a banded groundling that's hovering around it as well. They're pretty common still through the winter months. Most other dragonflies are non-existent during winter, but the groundlings tend to still kind of hang about on the edges. Not a lot of them, but you do see them. But I'd imagine even the birds are hot this afternoon. They must be enjoying the fact that there's a bit of cooler weather coming our way. Other than that, it's still very quiet. I haven't even seen a movement of an animal. I was kind of hoping maybe something like a steenbok or a herd of impalas, or even better, a herd of elephants was going to come down. But alas, we have not been spoilt with any of that. All we've got is the odd Birchall starling and then a few heads of terrapins bobbing up and down here and there in the water. They just see these little heads every now and then around these sort of stick areas on the edge of the water itself. So there's not really a lot happening. Yes, I can see one now, Morgan, if you look where the sticks are. And there you can see one of the heads just poking out of the rippled water. You can see the wind is kicked up a little bit now, so there's a little bit more rippling over the water itself. And that little terrapin is just having a nice breath of air, and then you'll find that they'll go back under and mill about. I think they get pretty sad when the hippo's not here, because the hippo is the most entertainment they get. They get to bob along on top of it and try and eat any ticks that it's got on it. And when that's not here, then life is pretty much just going up and down in the water like that. Gone. So sneaky, Morgan. Finally, for the first time this afternoon, it doesn't feel like we're being baked. It's gotten to a temperature that is playable. It's feeling fairly okay now, isn't it, Morgan? I think we've ridden out the worst. Hopefully that will mean that Wendy doesn't overheat going forward. The engine probably is still very warm. We tried to have a look at it when there was smoke billowing out of every direction, and I couldn't even touch the bonnet. It was so hot. So I'm sure the engine bay is still very cool. I mean, very hot. But now with a bit of wind and us just sitting quietly here in the shade, it should cool down quite nicely. Do you know what I spotted, Morgan? The jolly green giant. Well, a jolly brown giant after his mud wallow. Do you see him?
I do not.
Yeah, well, I would say look for the antenna of the car, but he sticks out above the antenna. So you just look for Jonty's head in the bush. It seems like they were on their way down this side. There you see it through there. You can see him approaching. He's coming through from that angle there. You'll also notice that there is another person on the car when you do see the car, which is Tessa. She's taking over from Jonty tomorrow. So she's just on the back of the cars just to see the roads and where to go. Difference between tortoise and terrapin. So tortoise is a land-based animal. It doesn't go into the water. It only goes to water to drink. Terrapins are a bit of both. So they are land and water, and then turtles are water only. Now in some parts of the world, so places like the United States, turtles terrapins actually referred to as turtles, as well as even tortoises sometimes. So it just depends where you are as to how you kind of describe them. But the actual definition of it is that one is land-based, one is aquatic, and one is both. So a terrapin is both, and a tortoise is just terrestrial. It's actually the right words: terrestrial, aquatic, and semi-aquatic are the three words that you would use for them. Beautiful afternoon now, though. It feels a good time now for a leopard to come out. I have this feeling we're going to find one. I'm pretty sure that someone's going to pop out at a waterhole somewhere along the line. Yeah. All right. While we sit here and enjoy ourselves, let's send you across to Nick, who's made his way to a waterhole as well.
So good luck to Tristan on his leopard search this afternoon, but in the meantime we have reached Clara Dam and we have managed to find a Battalia Eagle, which is just standing right at the water's edge, and I wonder if it isn't coming down for a drink and a bit of a bath this afternoon. Have a look at the beautiful orange colours on this Battalia's face and that prominent grey wing panel at the bottom. That indicates to us that this is a female Battalia Eagle. The male has the black down all the way, so it doesn't have that grey panel on the wing. And I'm sure this is this is the female from our resident pair that spends a lot of time in this eastern part of Ngala and actually nests in a drainage line not far south from here. Just having a look at it. While it puts its bill to the ground there, and I wonder if it isn't trying to get a bit of sand for roughage. See, because those legs as well are very orange. Very alert at the water, as are most animals and birds in this part of the world. Just missed him picking up that, almost her picking up the ground again. Oh, look at that. That was very cool to see and hear her call as well. Often you'll hear them calling, but you'll hear them calling most of the time when they are in the air. I've been watching her and she seems to be taking This is incredibly interesting behavior. It almost looks like she's doing a display, but I can't see a male or another eagle or bird anywhere else around us. Almost like she's doing it for us this afternoon. This is one of the coolest sightings I think I've ever had of Battalia. Very interesting behavior. I agree with everyone. I mean, look at that. She's really giving it her all, almost losing her footing there for a second. She's definitely, I wonder if her eyesight isn't just much better than ours and she can see something that we can't. This is the wonder about working in the bush. Hot afternoon, you don't expect to see much. Come to a waterhole, there's a Battalia, and then she starts displaying and behaving like this. Super, super interesting. Might be able to see on the water as well. The wind's blowing quite, well, not, I wouldn't say strong, but there's quite a breeze blowing from the northern side of this waterhole towards us. now that she has stopped jumping around, you can see she's having a careful look in all directions. Jasmine, I like that. Bird yoga. Never thought I'd ever see a bird trying to do yoga, but I agree with you. It was bizarre how she was trying to stretch her wings up and vocalizing the whole time. It's a good term for if I ever see it again. Interesting to see the way she's been ruffling her feathers and shaking them out. If she hasn't already been in the water, you can see there at the bottom of her, sort of underneath her belly, some of the feathers are joined together, which might indicate that she's already been in the water for a bath. And the way she's been standing next to the water's edge, she might just be trying to dry off a little bit. Just to her left, yeah, and if you zoom out a little bit, there's also 2 crested francolins that are coming down to drink, which are very brave to be that close to this Battalia Eagle, but they obviously know that she's not incredibly capable from that distance to try and catch them. I mean, Battalias do primarily scavenge, but I have seen them on numerous occasions eating a variety of species, and crested francolin has been one that I have seen them feeding on before as well. It could be that they kleptoparasiticized it from another bird, but with those talons and bill, you can imagine that they're quite capable of hunting on their own as well. Zooming further out onto the waterhole now that she's not doing as much as she was earlier. We've also got a single hippo head out at the moment. Oh, jeepers, everything's showing off for us today. 2 hippos now out of the water, some Egyptian geese in the background as well, but I think after that incredible sighting of this Battalia, what we'll do is head off in the direction of the boundary where the wild dogs were left this morning.
Here collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when he finished the water, he just lied down. And then, that was the opportunity of the scrappy. You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
Welcome back, everyone. So we're also here at the edge of a watering hole, just enjoying a bit of shade actually, and up close of a guarri, I think is what Darren's giving you.
Trying to find insects.
He's looking for insects. Please don't find any, because I'll have to dig out the insect book. I'll be panicking if you find an insect. But yeah, we're just kind of waiting a little bit. Tristan gave an update that there were some tracks of a, I can't remember if it was a female leopard. So I do want to loop around back to that area. Like I was saying, once it gets a bit cooler, things might start moving around. We might hear some alarm calls or something like that. We did see a hyena, which was running around in the middle of the heat, which is a bit bizarre. I wonder if it wasn't up to something. Trying to chap something. Ooh, there's a slender mongoose. It's just run off behind a bush, unfortunately. Cereal at midnight. That's a good question. I think the first time I went, I actually can't remember because I was probably 3 or 4. But like my first real proper memories of going, I was probably 8 or 9, visiting a small reserve in Zululand. It used to be called Windy Ridge. It then became Tula Tula, which is a place where there's a book written about a release of a herd of elephants in that area, but that was the sort of first place that I got to visit and spend a lot of time there, which was very, very cool. And then other trips to Tswalu Kalahari, which is the national park in KZN, which was close to our house. But yeah, I think 8 or 9 is probably where I've got my first real memory. We went on, it was called a Hunter Wilderness Awareness Camp. And it, when I think back now, I mean, it was so much fun, but it was completely slapped together. It had nothing to do with hunting. We just went there, camped for 10 days, threw clay at each other, did some tracks, looked for animals, but it was really a good experience. It really stands out in my memory. So thanks for that question, Cereal at Midnight. Yeah, Emma, I think they do. A lot of the textbooks and stuff say 50 degrees is where birds start panicking. And so you'll see, when it gets hot, you'll see they do something called Giraffe flapping, which is, I always remember that when we used to do assessment drives with new guides, you would ask, so I mean, it's a nightmare situation. You've got to take 6 qualified guides on game drive, and you do a whole briefing beforehand, and you ask them what would they like to see, and you expect them to say elephant, rhino, giraffe, and birds is always one you've got to do. And I remember the guy said to this very nervous young guide, "I want to see a bird Giraffe flapping." And I don't think he'd ever heard, well, it sounds like a completely made up thing, but they open their beak. It's like their equivalent of panting. That's how they try and keep cool. But when it gets very hot, yeah, birds will just fall right off their perch if they can't regulate their temperature. Giraffe flapping. Darren, you're killing the sun through the Gwari shot, yeah, nailing it. So we're just going to continue enjoying this 5 out of 5 shade for a little bit longer, then I think we'll carry on our merry way.
"90 seconds of that, but right, so unfortunately there's a crash cut from Ngala, which means that they've run out of signal, so you're back with us at the ad pod, is what we call it, so you would have heard me saying it. But we're still at Treehouse Dam. I was about to leave, actually. I was thinking about where I wanted to go from here. And my gut tells me that maybe a little tour of the west is where I'm going to go. I think maybe, just maybe, we might get that mating pair somewhere. That's what I think. I don't know. They went into Arethusa, but one can never be sure. This morning they were doing all kinds of little loops around. Morgan, let's test your camera work here. You see these beautiful little birds in the grass over there? Morgan, you see them? Or are you battling to find them there? There's somewhere there. To your left a little bit. There we go. There we go. Well done, Morgan. Little blue waxbill. Look at that beauty. Sure to brighten up any day. All right, so like I said, I think we're going to go bumble to the west of the reserve. We're going to try and see if we can find something there. If not the mating pair, then maybe Kara will make an appearance. So we'll start heading off in that direction shortly. We're still birding, still looking at the various birds that have come to Treehouse Dam. I've got a blue waxbill now. It's very exciting. I like blue waxbills, cute little birds, but this one is like a statue of a blue waxbill. I don't think it's moved in the last 5 minutes. We'll see now if it will give way to a charging virtual starling that's running in its direction. Very, very big size difference. It's almost like Jonty running at Ali in many ways. Very, very disproportionate in size. So yeah, nothing much else has changed. The odd bird has come down, but like I say, this is quite possibly the stillest blue waxbill I've ever seen in my life. They normally don't sit still at all. They bounce around all over the place and into bushes and doing all kinds of things. But this guy is just happy to sit right where he is and not move. All his friends flew away. There was actually 4 of them there, and they all got out of dodge, and he decided to stay exactly where it is. I don't know if it's starstruck by the fact that Jonty actually drove past just now and, just saw this huge mud-wallowing man coming past and thought, well, I'll never be as good as that. Alright, while we leave this waxbill to, well, just stand in the middle of nowhere doing nothing, we're going to go bumble off and we'll send you across to Nick, who's probably doing far more productive things than us.
So we've come across a beautiful and very relaxed herd of elephants feeding in amongst a magic guarri thicket. And if you have a look at this large elephant cow in front of us, you can see how she's thrashing her trunk after pulling out some grass, and basically she's just trying to get rid of some of the soil in the roots of the grass before she eats it. But they're a lot busier. We saw them a little bit earlier on the way back from fixing the vehicle, but they were just moving out of the river into quite a dense area, so it's nice to have picked up on this herd again. Still quite thick around us, but lots of elephants here. Oh, you can see she's busy urinating as well. And she's just dropped some dung. Another younger elephant just behind her. There's a good chance that it could be a previous calf of hers with the proximity, but probably too early to tell for sure. I'm sure these elephants are enjoying the fact that it's cooling down quite fast this afternoon. Oh, that's a nice shot of the eye. Beautiful lighting on them as well. And you can see the elephant, have a look how she's flapping her ears, trying to cool herself down. Even though it is starting to cool down, it's still very hot. So these elephants, you can imagine with their very thick skin, struggle to cool themselves down. So I'm sure the riverbed might be an option for them a little bit later as well. Quite nice. I'm just going to keep quiet for a while, and if you listen carefully, you should be able to hear elephants pulling out grass and moving through the magic wari thickets. Actually see on that youngster's back there was quite a lot of sand from the Timavati River where they've been throwing sand on their backs. Helps act as a little bit of a sunscreen. If it's moist as well, it can cool them down quite nicely, as well as the fact that it will kill parasites that live on them, parasitic mites. Actually, the particles of the sand can break the exoskeleton of those mites and kill them. Going to quickly reposition and move a little bit further back, just because these two elephant cows are slowly there we go. Now that we've given them a bit of space, it's fine. To be honest, I would have been fine to sit with them. They're very relaxed this afternoon, but it's always nice to give them the utmost respect and just keep a little bit of a distance between you and them, just to give them that ease of mind. Now, one of my favorite animals to watch, especially this time of day, Mike, that is an excellent question, because I've heard lots of people saying that the females chase the young bulls away and essentially kick them out of the herd, and then I've also heard the opposite, where the males come of age and move off on their own. So it's a tricky one to answer. There are different theories around it. In my personal opinion, I think the females probably give the young bulls quite a hard time, and then the young bulls leave on their own. They just get over it. Wouldn't say it's as much of a chasing out of the herd as what male lions will do to other young male lions when they're pushing them out of the pride. But in my opinion, I think the bulls end up choosing to leave on their own accord and moving out of the herd. I mean, often you hear the females trumpeting, and sometimes it's as a result of the young males causing trouble within the herd. You can see on this female's ear as well, have a look, there's two prominent holes in her left ear, as well as a very prominent, I wouldn't say tear, but just the way her ear has now become. And I think that would be a nice way to try and ID an elephant. So who knows, maybe in the next couple of days we'll find an elephant herd again, and if we keep a really good lookout and check some of the bigger cows' ears, we should be able to identify this herd quite easily. Most of the larger females have actually got prominent tears in their ears. But you can also clearly see the sand on her back now that she's standing right next to us. And have a look at the folds in their skin. It's so cool to get a close-up perspective of it. really are unbelievable animals. And to hear them moving through the bush like this is also... Oh. Holly's asking why some elephants have smaller trunks. I think probably to do with their age, if you think, speaking about the thickness of their trunk. I have seen one very big elephant bull that lives around Ngala, or he doesn't live around Ngala, he comes on and off Ngala because the bull elephants tend to move huge distances every year. And I know he lost his trunk as a result of a snare that got caught around his trunk, so he's got half a trunk now. But otherwise, I think it's with age, also probably a little bit to do with the genes of the specific individual. But I can imagine an elephant, two elephants, both 10 years old or both 20 years old, are probably going to have a similar sized trunk. This one cow came up and snuck up on us from our right-hand side. She's very relaxed with our presence, and at this stage I don't really want to turn the vehicle on because it could disturb her. But you can see we are looking straight into the sun, so the picture might be a little bit difficult to see, excuse me. Now, the reason why I was saying why I love watching elephants so much is because they're busy. Even on the hottest days like today, you can see they're moving around, feeding, trunks are moving, interactions between different individuals, calves trying to suckle. The heat doesn't deter them too much, whereas if we were sitting with the pride of lions, it would be very sleepy, inactive lions. But I think with these elephants moving off behind us and into... or they're actually heading towards the drainage line behind us. I think our plan from here will be to head back to the Timbavachi River and maybe just do a little bit of a drive in the river, not after leopard this afternoon, but reports from some of the other ranges is that the wild dogs have managed to, or they have come onto Ngala. So they're just on our eastern boundary on our side. We're going to give those guys a couple of minutes so that they can watch and enjoy the wild dogs for themselves, and hopefully crossing fingers that the dogs are going to come into Ngala, and if we're super lucky we might get an opportunity to watch them move around and hunt. But I think for now let's keep going and just see what else is out and about. But that was an incredible elephant sighting. It was really very special. Had a similar one yesterday of a young bull that just wouldn't let me get away from him, and he was behaving in a bizarre fashion. He would
Calling all WildEarth explorers, we have a new and frankly awesome travel prize for you to win. andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve encompasses an impressive 28,000 hectares of protected wildlife land in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. As you have seen on WildEarth, andBeyond Phinda showcases one of the continent's finest game viewing experiences and is well known for close-up sightings of the elegant yet elusive cheetah as well as the rare black rhino. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the 16th of September and you and a friend could be heading to the magnificent Phinda Mountain Lodge, where you will spend 3 nights escaping the real world at this ultimate safari location. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
Welcome back on board with Jonty and Darren. We are now on the Gari cut line. We're going back down past Twin Dams where there was a lunatic mud wallowing earlier. What I wanted, it's still quite warm, I want to go check Chitwa Dam, and then from there I want to go towards Nyala Road South. That's where I saw some tracks. Female leopard. We did drive in them lot and we didn't see any tracks coming out. So I think that leopard is still in that area. That's like a bit of a... There's 2 drainage lines that meet each other there. I definitely would like to go and try find her moving a bit later. So let's go check Chitwa Dam. That's our first plan of action.
I'm gonna start to check Green Thames Road and the other south, slowly taken off.
So we just came to check one of our prominent Ngala trees on Ngala, just with the hope that there might be a leopard in the tree. Unfortunately for us, no leopard in the tree this afternoon. But the temperatures are dropping and it would be a good time to find some of the predators starting to get active. We are still waiting for updates from the area where the wild dogs are, so we're just taking a slow drive around with the hope that they come onto Ngala this afternoon. You never know with them, there's a chance that they might get active and decide or spot an impala on the other side of the road and head off into the Manyaleti. But that's not a huge issue, although it would be lovely to watch them on the move this afternoon and try and keep up with them and follow them. We're now taking a road called Pretorius West, which goes past a little pan called Pretorius Pan as well. And this whole area there, we were actually also just at the Ngala tree area called Pretorius House, which was named after a guy, Colonel Jan Pretorius, who used to live at Pretorius House under the Ngala tree. He was one of the founders, I think, of the Timbavati Private Nature Reserves, or one of the original members that got it all up and running. So it's nice to have a little bit of history, and we're also heading to Pretorius Pan, so very much centered around him. Pretorius Pan, unfortunately, has no water in at the moment. It is dry, but you never know with it. Maybe there's a little bit of mud, maybe some elephants went and kicked around in it. Maybe we'll find a buffalo. But it's just starting to become really pretty this afternoon. The light's nice and soft and gold. Wind's dropped. Starting to cool down. For anyone on the show that likes or enjoys birding, this little area that we're coming up to on our left is a phenomenal spot to try and do some birding in the summertime. This last year we had a couple ridiculous species that came and visited us. I'm sure some of you would have seen the juvenile Rufus bellied heron, which was a first record for Ngala. You can see now it's just very dry. I don't even think an elephant that would come and dig here would be able to access any mud, maybe deep down. But it's quite pretty and lots of beautiful trees around. I can hear a few birds calling. So we'll just keep bumbling about and see what we can find this afternoon. Maybe if we're lucky we'll get the dogs. But for now we might just stick around here and have a look for some birds.
The Masai Mara in Kenya is an iconic wilderness filled with life. Its inspirational beauty has captivated our hearts on WildEarth for many years. While this season of the world's greatest migration has been missed, WildEarth is preparing a spectacular comeback in 2022. For the first time ever, WildEarth will be running expeditions to Kenya's Masai Mara throughout the 2022 migration season. Hosted by David Githu and Isaac Rotich, you could be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration with the world, live on WildEarth's daily safaris. If you're interested, then head over to our website to find out more.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition. And our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
It's either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, 2 to go.
So, as promised, a little bit of birding, and have a look at this little beauty. Notice the white brow above the eye, the streaking on the chest, the very fast movements, skinny legs, long bill. We have got a white-browed scrub robin, which is usually an incredibly secretive bird that is busy running around and feeding. We also had a couple white-crested helmet shrikes that were busy, but oh, there's one just landed at the back there, and I wonder what they are feeding on. There must be maybe some ants moving around, because there's lots of birds that were hopping about. But yeah, as I said, very special to have this scrub robin out in the open like this. Back at camp, we've got beautiful bearded scrub robins that have become very habituated with us, but the white-broweds we don't tend to see too often. And if your hand looks a little bit further down the road as well, birds can be tricky because they love to fly away. But there's another beautiful species, that's another scrub robin, and then there's another beautiful black and white bird with, have a look at that yellow eye. Oh, look at the little mouse. Jeepers. That was interesting. Some type of rodent just crossed the road. But the yellow eye wattle, that was a white-crested helmet shrike, which is quite unique considering the fact that we're hoping to we'll catch up with the dogs later this afternoon, because the helmet shrikes have got a very similar social structure to that of the African wild dogs. And while they feed here, they usually cooperatively breed. So there'll be an alpha pair similar to the way the dogs breed, and then the rest of the flock will help feed and raise the chicks. Amazing that birds have developed to look after a flock and look after the rest of or look after chicks for one breeding pair. So lots of birds calling around us. Heard some white-bellied sunbirds, some blue waxbills, southern grey-headed sparrows, I think yellow-fronted canaries as well. Oh, there's a yellow-fronted canary. On the top of this, okay, never mind. The birds never like to stick around for too long, so I'm really surprised that the scrub robins have been here. But it was the canaries that we heard calling above us, and if you listen carefully behind us, you might even be lucky enough to hear the brown-headed parrots that are also calling. So not only in wintertime does Pretoria's pan deliver, summertime birding here is also very, very good. So while we leave the birds and start making our way towards the dogs, we're going to send you over to Tristan, who's on a bumble.
I am on a bumble, but this kudu has just rolled us. It's gone behind the car rather than in front. It was aiming to come in front of the car, so it's going to go behind you. Unfortunately, probably see it going out of frame because the antenna is coming up. But crossing over into Arethusa, it seems like that's the order of the day today. Many things going towards Arethusa itself. So we're still just kind of bumbling along the western boundary at the moment, just trying to see if there's any signs of these mating leopards coming back. I suspect though, so when I went into, after we had them this morning, I went into Simambili just to check there. But one-eyed pan, which is normally got water, is completely dry. So I wonder if what's happened now is because the only water from that area where they were is actually just down here on my left at Red Dam. So at Red Dam there would be water there, and I would expect that they've probably gone to that section. Mating takes a lot of energy, and that means that they'll need water at some point, and so I'm pretty sure they'll head in that direction. If not there, then I'm just trying to think where else they could have gone. The only other water from where they are would be Boundary Pan, maybe, if that has water. I don't think it does though, but that's quite far afield and quite far west, so I'm pretty sure that it would be here at Red Dam that they've gone, but you never know. Let's just check. There's no water on the Djuma side other than Treehouse, so you know, we'll have a little scratch, maybe we get lucky, but I don't think that's the case. Talking about water, let's send you across to John T, who's found the biggest water source in this area.
We are being spoilt. Look at this little hippo. I'm just being careful not to move too much to make it wobbly. Jeepers, that thing was cute. It was yawning now. Just, I saw the other day a ridiculous video. I'm not sure where it was. I'm presuming Zambia, maybe in the Luangwa or somewhere. I'll have to double check, but there must be like 40 or 50 hippos in a dry, it's obviously like the last remaining pool, and they get hold of a crocodile. It was ferocious. We are here at Chitwa Dam. There's the compulsory crocodile sighting. So we saw the other day, I didn't realize there were two of these absolute behemoths in here. And I actually think this is the second one. Looks like his back left foot isn't present.
How much does a baby hippo weigh?
Sorry, I just pulled my earphones right out. How much does a newborn hippo weigh? It must be similar to a rhino. I imagine around somewhere between 40 and 50 kilograms. I haven't been asked that question in a very long time. What do you reckon, Tess?
Yeah, about the same.
I imagine.
Say 50, 55.
Which is crazy if you think a big human baby is like 4 kilograms. And they're coming out at around 50. Oh, thank you, FC. Are you fact checking me?
Well, apparently Rusty's got no signal, I've got no signal, and so now we're just going to park in the middle of nowhere with nothing. So not really sure what we're going to talk about, but, you know, we'll make something up. It's generally how things go. It seems as though there is just a never-ending cycle of signal issues at the moment. Hopefully at some point they'll get sorted out. So for now, we're going to stare at a whole bunch of bush willows and the odd quarry. We're in the kind of area where if Tortoise Pan and Zutini were to cross back to Djuma, should be around this section. Where I left them was not that far north of where we are now. So theoretically they should turn and then start coming back into this area. If they did want to come back this side, but we know that that's also quite tricky too. Selena, so that's an interesting question. You're asking about lions in the Mara and coloration differences versus lions here in South Africa. So females, exactly the same. The coloration is very, very similar to what we see here. Male-wise, the manes there are slightly different. They have much longer manes, bigger manes is probably a better word for it, and can often be quite multicolored like ours, but the odd ones in East Africa, so like the Serengeti system, sometimes you'll get them there, and in the Ngorongoro crater are these really beautiful big maned lions that are blonde. I really like when they have those blonde manes. They look amazing. But yeah, they're slightly different just in the main length more than the actual coloration. So coloration wise, males are pretty similar to here, and the females are exactly the same. So not too much in the way of coloration. But what is different with the East African lions is their ear shape. Their ears tend to be a lot bigger than the ears here. I find them more elongated than what you see here. And there's also certainly a size difference. The lions up there are big, they're muscular, they're wide, they've got big, heavy set chests. So yeah, the Mara lionesses are seriously big individuals. They eat well, and especially those around the marsh, you know, they typically are quite big girls. But yeah, coloration-wise, not too much of a difference. Pretty similar to what you see here. And that goes for most lions. I haven't really, in my time in any of the countries that I've been fortunate. Well, sorry everybody, it seems like we've got a few technical issues that are happening at the moment, but you're back with us. And so like I was saying, is that the male lions typically are different in all those countries from a mane point of view, but the coloration of the actual body and the fur between females and young males is pretty similar across most of the countries that I've visited. I've never really seen a major difference, bar the white lions, of course, at Ngala. They really are the standouts in terms of coloration differences, but the rest in the rest of the countries, in Kenya, like I say, Tanzania, all of them are pretty similar to what you would see here. So yeah, I must admit the lions of East Africa are, it's crazy how many there are in that area. You see so many lions when you go into the Masai Mara or even the Serengeti, and the quality of the males there and the sizes of their manes is just so impressive. Always enjoy seeing them there. You know, as we all know, I'm not the biggest lion fan. I mean, I like lions, but they're not my absolute favorite. But I find the ones in East Africa to be some of the most beautiful lions that we have out here in Africa. Alrighty, well, I mean, like I say, I don't really know what else to do. We're not allowed to move, and there's not really much to look at here. Morgan?
Yeah?
What do you think?
I don't know, these bushes are nice.
I suppose it's not a bad idea just to sit and listen for a little bit, and maybe we get lucky with hearing an alarm call or something. All right, well, we'll sit here and just have a little listen. Maybe we'll get lucky, like I say, maybe something alarm calls or something pops out, and we'll see what happens. Well, we're still sitting quietly, so we'll just sit here and let you guys enjoy the sounds of the bush, or lack thereof at this stage. It's eerily quiet this afternoon. And while you kind of gaze upon the beautiful sky, we'll just sit in silence and enjoy. Well, all still very quiet. No alarm calls, no sounds of anything really. In fact, even birds, there's none calling. So, I don't know, we'll probably have to carry on at some point, and hopefully our luck will change. Well, we still haven't moved. Unfortunately, we are still having a few tech issues, so we have to just stay stationary for now, which means that we're just looking at the sunset and listening in the hope of something making an appearance. So probably a good time to maybe just discuss kind of movements of leopards and the various other animals that are around here, and bring out the map so we don't just sit and idly stare at bushes like we've been doing for the last 10 minutes. Anyway, so I've been saying a lot talking a lot about Tlalamba and her movements and where she goes and how she goes about it, and why her movements have changed. Now, historically, Tlalamba was kind of born around this area here, at this road called Ngala South. She was actually, the first time we ever saw Thandi go into a den was on Central Road over here, and then she was moved to Ngala South from there. Then she kind of milled about in this area for a while. Hukamuri arrived, and she was moved up into this northeastern corner of Djuma over here. And then as she kind of grew up and eventually left mom, so most of her time was spent kind of around this eastern side of Djuma, central to east. And then she started, just before she started mating for the first time, she started to expand, and we started to see her going towards Hardekul, and then she would come down, and she was expanding quite a lot. Then she had that cub and lost it. And since then, her movement has changed again, and she's like going into Little Gowrie now. She goes all the way around, and she's been seen as far as Second Rock in the east, and still bends up around sort of Hardekul and down again. Now, in terms of her having cubs and where she can have them, because she has such a large territory, much bigger than any of the other females, she has a lot of options. The problem is that, as I was saying to you guys earlier, is that there's a lot of males at the moment. So if we take a look at the northern section, so what's on her north, at the moment in Nhlangula kind of is coming in from this Jordan's Dam area, Poachers Road, and he kind of comes along this side and round sort of Nyala Dam towards Sussens, and then up as far as this Manyeleti corner and then into Manyeleti itself. So he's kind of in that area. Tavungumi is this section around Jacana, Harticle, Baobab, and into the Manyeleti now. The guys are seeing him in Manyeleti quite often, crossing in there and back across. And then this new male, this kind of Timbavati male, I mean, he doesn't have a name, we just call him the Timbavati male because that's where he's come from. He's hanging around a lot at Sussens Dam, Nyala Dam, and he's been seen at Nsinga, so he's kind of utilizing this area here. In this far east, we don't know which males are moving around there at all. It used to be quarantine, but at the moment he hasn't been seen for quite some time, so we're not sure who's actually doing all of this. And then when you come down, Mulawati is basically all over Torchwood, Djuma, and into Arathusa, and then Tortoise Pan, his kind of the most we've seen him is on Impala Road, and then Vuatela Access, Baobab Dam, and then back into Simambili. So he's only just doing a little small section over here, and I'm sure his push will start to come more and more as he starts to venture in. But what that means is that she's got a number of males skirting her on the edges, and I think that's going to drive her to start coming down and to try and find a den site, maybe in this drainage line that comes down in Torchwood, somewhere here, or one of these drainages that runs east-west from Buffelshoek Dam drainage and kind of comes down this side. I think that's going to be her best bet here, to stay out of the way of all this nonsense up in the top that's taking place, as well as to then ensure, even with Mulawati kind of moving around, this area here is a bit of a dead zone for male leopards at the moment, so it provides a good place. The problem is this is where Tandi and Marips are spending most of their time, so she's going to have to deal with that too and try and figure it out. Alright, there's a car that wants to come past, so I'm going to have to move, I'm afraid. Even though we have a technical issue, I'm going to have to try and move out of the way. Sorry, Morgan. Alright, so we're going to try and carry on. Seems like Jonty's back with us, so let's send you across to him.
Thank you, Tristan. I want him to send me that map of where, is it a live locator where all the leopards are? That would be cheating. So we've come away from Chitwa Dam. I'm heading back to that area on Nyala Road South, which is where Tristan did see those tracks. And I want to go and see if we can, like I've been saying sort of the whole afternoon, this is the time now. We've got this sort of last hour and a bit of light. Temperature's dropped. This is hopefully when things are going to be active. So I want to get close to where Tristan saw those tracks and kind of just switch off, watch the sun go down a little bit, but listen if we hear any sort of alarm calls. Hello, lady. Any sort of alarm calls that could indicate the presence of that leopard. I think it is going to be a beautiful sunset. Yo, that is a tough question. I always used to think I'd love to be a lion, but having watched them in my career, to be a male lion or a lioness would be not so great. And I thought sometimes maybe a leopard, but leopards, you're lonely, you're by yourself the whole time. I think it would be cool to be like a big elephant bull. And the only reason I say an elephant bull is just because then you're big, and so things other than people, so obviously the caveat is that people aren't allowed to harass you. But I think to be an elephant bull would be pretty cool. Or maybe something like a honey badger. The honey badger, you've just got this insane reputation. People are terrified of you.
Wild dog.
Wild dog. But also tough. You're getting hammered by all the other predators.
Yeah.
What did you be?
I think that's just a big one. Maybe a bush baby.
A bush baby! Dazza! That would be pretty cool. That is left field. Wow. Gwyn, what would you like to be?
Oh, a drongo. Drongo's awesome. Just then if you were the alien, I was the drongo.
Gwyn would like to be a butterfly. That's quick, Gwyn, but I don't know if you thought that you're not going to be around for a long time. It'll be quick. Don't you want to be, I mean, you'll be beautiful, but it will be fleeting. Gwyn's just saying she'll just keep coming back as different butterflies, as a multiple life-spanning butterfly. Yeah, it is interesting, that question, because obviously, having been a guide, we get to watch these animals and see the sort of trials and tribulations that they have to go through. And I suppose you sort of try to fix certain human attributes to those behaviors or traits that you find redeeming in the animals. And so for me, for me, a male lion is an incredible beast. If you think what they have to go through to establish a territory and get a territory. And once they've got there, they've got this confidence and this look about them that is, do you know what I mean? The male lion walks into the room and everybody just, you just know that is a mania, that is a man, or that is a thing that is in charge of itself and its space. And elephants, for me, also have that. Elephants definitely dominate their own space. I think an elephant would be great, just because I love eating. They eat the whole time.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
I think sometimes you need just to listen. So it's a kind of taking out all that other spirit and bring back wilderness and healthy. Bushwalk and trek and sign. I'm sure I'm good at that. I spend most of my time on the ground since I was a young boy, so I think I'm good with that. Actually, I'm not much nervous of any category. Just take it as it is. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on what the judges are looking at. So chances are 50-50 on my side. I'm not... Obviously, when you go for a competition, you say you win.
You
are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Well, no change on our side, still very quiet, no tracks, no signs of anything. We went into Simamili, checked where we last kind of saw them, but the tracks still, obviously we're heading to Arathusa, we know that they went there, but nothing coming back that I can see onto the Simamili or Djuma side. So alas, they must have just gone deeper, which isn't really. With those guys now when we get there. I was kind of hoping with the commotion of them mating here this morning that maybe Kara or Shadulu or even maybe Tavanbumi made an appearance. They often like to come into these areas to check out what's going on. The sound of mating leopards, it might have somehow time around the gate area. One of the guys I know that works for Sabi Sands, that lives at the gate, says he's been seeing her almost every night moving around that area. She must be somewhere close by. Alright, so we're going to roll past our impalas and let them carry on with their afternoon. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to John T, who's admiring a sunset.
We are looking at this beautiful sunset. It really is stunning. We're kind of not far from where I'm wanting to be. I'm just kind of listening. And we're going to take the next road that heads west, so we're going to be driving towards the sun. I might do that and then stop a little bit closer to where those tracks were last seen. We've been listening here for a little bit. So I am going to drive. Yeah, that is pretty, eh? My goodness. It's funny, it's like a throwback when I did my Nkwazi ranger training at Phinda. This time of day we were in it was in the 8th week of the training course, so by then you hope that you're kind of going to make it through. We did have a guy got kicked off on the last day, unfortunately. But so you're kind of feeling like you're in a rhythm, and I remember we stopped at a watering hole, Shumungwe Dam, and the sun was setting like this, and we had smuggled in a couple of beers and we were having a beer and watching the sun go down, and it was at that sort of moment that I knew this is the exact type of place I need to be operating in. And look at it, all these years later it's still there, just I don't know, shines on you. Everything feels good in the world when you see it like that. Bush lover, a lot is it's a bit of a stretch. We see them. Actually, this time of year when there's not a lot of leaves on a lot of these combretum that are this area we're driving through now. At night with the spotlight you often get lucky, but it's often a very quick glimpse, and this is for, excuse me, the ones I'm talking about now is called a lesser galago. So it's a small bush baby. You see them, but it's often very, very quick, and they're jumping from branch to branch. And then other parts of the country, I mean, I know some of the areas here, you also get thick-tailed bush babies, which you do see fairly frequently. I remember at home growing up, we used to see a bush baby every single night. It used to come into our garden every night. So it just depends kind of where you are, but they're certainly around. If you look for them, you should get lucky and at least see their eyes flashing through the branches. So I'm just going to, I think, David, for me, I think it was actually the road that we were on. We've turned off of it now, but it's a road called Drakensberg, and it's got a clear view. It is a bit hazy this afternoon, but it's got a clear view of the Drakensberg mountain range in the west, which is the sun sets behind it, so you end up getting this really radical silhouette of the mountains. But unfortunately we're going lower and lower down, so I don't know if I'll be able to show you a great example of that spot, but from where I've been driving around, that's one of my favorite spots. So we should be coming up to a junction fairly soon, and I'll stop there and listen again. There's been a few for different sort of things. As when I was very young, a lot of guides grew up watching something called Bush School, which was done by John Varty, and sort of he had this radical lifestyle that we sort of would watch. But getting into this industry, there's a man called Graham Vakale who did a lot of training with andBeyond, and I'm pretty convinced he's potentially Chuck Norris's father. He's a really amazing chap, and yeah, really knowledgeable. Daryl Dell is another long-time andBeyond guide, just a phenomenal birder, but just this it's really incredible. I don't even know how many years he's been guiding, but you would still find, we would come back in South Africa, like we call like new young guides or young people, the slang term, like you call ourselves lighties, like these newbies, and we would come back from drive and would basically be messing around, either go play touch rugby or I don't know, whatever we were doing, and he would come back and he'd be reading wildlife journals, sort of research papers on birds, mammals, things in different countries, and for me that was pretty legendary to see that after all these years his thirst for knowledge and just, I suppose, being the ultimate sort of guide is It really is amazing. But there's a lot, almost too many to mention. A lot of my really good friends, the slightly lunaticish, a lot of them are really, really good guides and great in their own sort of way. This, I think I actually want to turn around. I don't want to go this way. Sorry, I was busy talking, not paying attention. I want to go up that next road. So this drainage line that I've just reversed into joins the Mlawati, and it's that drainage line that the Leopard's tracks went into. Yeah, like it kind of put me on the spot a little bit with that question, but it's a good question. There's probably too many to mention, but I'd say those guys. Alistair Kilpin is another, just like the way his mind processes things, questions things. Yeah, there's a lot of really good Leon van Wyk, 5'7" Mpundu legend. Giles Culmanson, like I could keep going on and on. A lot of guides who take a big inspiration from. Oh, how's this wind? I don't like this wind that's picking up here. We're just going to continue to work the southern side of this drainage line.
Well, good luck, John T. Hopefully you can find something. We haven't found much either. Just admiring the last of the sunset for the afternoon, and waiting for the sun just to dip down. There's a wind that's picking up now, which is exactly what I thought would happen, or expected to happen. This will be the colder weather now. We'll roll in through the night, cool everything down. The wind will also, probably in all likelihood, make everything quite skittish and a little bit nervous. Well, prey animal wise, the cats often use it to their advantage, but you can see how that tree is blowing in the wind now. Beautiful sunset though. The sun is slowly dipping, the wind is picking up, so what we're going to do is just bumble around from here and just see, maybe we can pick up something. I'm going to go check Gari Dam again, just an off chance that leopard is still hanging around from last night. See maybe if something comes down to the water. We'll also check Gallagher Pan on our route as well. Otherwise it's been very quiet. Even on the radio there's not much that's happening this afternoon, so we'll have to make our own luck and see if we can find something as we bumble towards Gari Dam. Well, the sun is going down and setting, wind is kicking up, and I think it's time for us to carry on as well. So we're going to head towards Gari Dam and go and see if maybe just something is lurking with this wind kicking up though. So cats might be active in this trying to hunt because it's been so hot today, and with the wind that's swirling now, it might just make it easier for them. The prey animals will be very skittish now, and they'll try and get onto clearings and onto fire breaks to try and avoid being eaten, which is a clever strategy. See if we get lucky. Maybe we find something on the move now. It's definitely cooled off nicely. So Jan, leopards don't want to change their territory unless it's environmental. So initially when they're young, they change their territories if they're trying to expand it and grow it and get more access to resources, which would be, if in the female's case, den sites, water, food. In the male's case, females, water, food. But in terms of changing their territory, nothing makes them want to change their territory. It's a forced change that they go through. So they'll change if they have pressure from too many lions or too many hyenas or too many leopards and younger up-and-coming individuals. Those are all things that will make them move and push away from where they've established territory. Ultimately, it's never a nice feeling for a leopard to move out of a place that they're familiar with. Once they establish territory, they've established it for a reason, because they have all the things that they need. So when there's force that's applied to it, it's often they try and push back as much as they can, but eventually, size, age, all these things catch up with any leopard, and they then have to start going off on their own and doing their own thing. I just want to quickly check in here. This is an old hyena den that we had. I don't think anyone's checked here for a number of months, so just gonna poke my nose in. You never ever know. I know Ali said to me that she saw a hyena that had suckle marks, so maybe there's a den somewhere on Djuma. We'll have a little look though. It doesn't look like it. There's not a lot of hyena tracks going up and down here, which normally is the indicator that the den is active, is when you see a lot of tracks going into a certain place. I don't see that many here, but you never know. Like I say, always worth checking these old den sites when you don't know where a den is. Better just to check. A lot of the hyenas though won't be mating just yet. They've only all just finished denning, so it takes a few months to get back into mating and falling pregnant. Now this den is definitely not in use. You can see how little tracks there are on the entrance to the den. Sort of check around the back in case there's maybe some warthogs around. Nope. Definitely not being used anymore. Alright, well, worth a check. Maybe a warthog living in there, see a bit of excavation that's taken place. We're going to carry on bumbling. We'll see what we can find. In the meantime, take a look at what you can win if you are part of the Explorers program. Stand a chance to head off to Phinda.
Calling all WildEarth explorers. We have a new and frankly awesome travel prize for you to win. andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve encompasses an impressive 28,000 hectares of protected wildlife land in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. As you have seen on WildEarth, andBeyond Phinda showcases one of the continent's finest game viewing experiences and is well known for close-up sightings of the elegant yet elusive cheetah, as well as the rare black rhino. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer before the 16th of September, and you and a friend could be heading to the magnificent Phinda Mountain Lodge, where you will spend 3 nights escaping the real world at this ultimate safari location. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
Okay, so I'm just looping around. I want to go check the other side of this drainage line. But there's some wind that's turned up here, which is not so pleasant. I hope if you are watching and you haven't yet, that you have registered to be an explorer, so that you can possibly get that chance to win the prize to Phinda. That would be a real treat. Oh, big hole. Ooh. So it's a bit of a bummer. This road, like the area we want to check, is back down there on our left, but the road does a big loop away.
Show. Right, so unfortunately Rusty is just having an absolute nightmare this afternoon. I don't know what's going on, but you're back with us. We haven't gotten too far. I'm just going very slowly. It's at that time of the day now where the light is at a weird kind of phase where things like leopard, lions, they blend in so well now. It's a bit dingy and you don't have a lot of definition. So it's always good just to go slow and check carefully as you go, because if any cat is sitting in the grass now, you're going to have a tough time to spot it. It makes sense also why we haven't seen any ellies this afternoon. You know, on a hot day like this, well, I know John T had some ellies, but on a hot day like this, normally you get quite a few ellies hanging around. But when this wind starts to kick up, they often know things are coming before you even do. So when you start to see them going into denser areas, you know the cooler weather is coming, and particularly the windy weather. I don't know, it feels like something should be lurking. It's like all the right conditions for a cat to be pretty active right now. Ali, you're asking what would I say is my top 5 animal? I'm sure it must be animals, but if there's 5 of them. Otherwise it's going to be a bit of a problem. But everyone will know leopard is on top spot by a long way. Then if we're talking worldwide, I would probably say I would go leopard, elephant, snow leopard, tiger, jaguar. That would probably be my top 5. If we were just going Africa, it would be leopard, elephant, hyena, wild dog, honey badger, probably. I think that's what I would go for, depending on where we are. So the problem is there's so many. Polar bears would be really cool as well. Yeah, I don't know. That'd be a tough one. Polar bears and tigers would be a tough kind of conversation. And when I said those 5, it was no particular order with other than leopard on top. So yeah. You know, it's difficult because sometimes when you haven't seen animals, so like I haven't seen polar bears, haven't seen clouded leopard, maybe those would fit in there if I saw them. But I have a fascination, as we know, for spotted or rosetted cats more than anything else. So they will always be kind of in the top 5, a number of them. So yeah, I think that's what I would go with. Morgan, you?
I was going to say, does
Hardy-Dar, it does, but it's controversial, so I thought I'd just go for the normal stuff, you know.
Egyptian goose?
Yeah, exactly. Hardy-Dar, Egyptian goose, What else? Vervet monkey, baboon.
I think we just named my top 4 right there.
Your top 4 right there. Morgan, you're a man of different tastes, must be honest. You see what I have to deal with every day. It's the clowns that are on the back of this car. Everyone thinks the cameramen are all serious. They're all over the place. We as guides have got to not only work, try to be professional, but we've got to keep them from causing bodily harm to themselves and to their brains by thinking too hard. So, no, I'm just joking.
Not really.
Not really, no, exactly. Morgan, you're a funny guy. You're allowed to stick around. I'll leave you on the back for a while.
Thanks.
My pleasure. Then, fondest memories as training as a guide. Oh, so many. The whole guide training experience. I often think about this, and I talk to other people and see what they go through as a training guide, and I quickly realized early on after talking to a few people is that the training that I received was on a whole nother level. I was spoiled beyond measure with the training that I got and the people that I trained with and just the general group and where I trained. Being able to spend 6 months learning in a place like Singita, and not just the Sabi Sands, but the Singita Lubombo, Singita Pamushana in Zimbabwe. It opened up a whole world, and I got to see a very, 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 very slick, very well run, very impressive operation. So I was very fortunate in that regard from that side. From the other side is the people that I trained with were all really nice guys, and then we had an incredible trainer that did the job for us. So the whole experience is a highlight. But yeah, fond memories of going into the bush, and while we were learning, it was still not, there was no pressure. It was to go out there and enjoy every minute of it, have fun, and became lifelong friends with a group of people that all had a similar interest, and we, to go out and to go track leopards and to go and track black rhinos in Zimbabwe and kind of sleep out in tents in the middle of the Kruger National Park, sit around a campfire and talk nonsense. I think all of those combined to make the whole thing a very fond memory. If I had to pick out a single memory within it, I think for me probably we used to go so we used to have 6-week cycles, and we'd go 6 weeks and then we'd get leave for 2 weeks, and once a cycle basically we would go to Singita Lubombo or the Inwanetsi concession, and that concession is absolutely spectacular. It is really, really quite something. And we used to go, when we went there, it was to do tracks and trailing training more than anything else. So we used to go camp out on the banks of one of the little riverbeds there, and to go and sit there and do walks in incredible heat for 4 or 5 days and just camp out, and it was just quite special. To sit with a little piece of canvas between you and lions and hyenas and all that kind of stuff. So I think that probably would be my fondest, but it would be a very tight call with Pamushana. The 10 days we spent up there was just next level, and it still remains my favorite reserve. Masai Mara, Delta, Sabi Sands, Serengeti, all of these have got massive names, and Zimbabwe is often very much overlooked because of its political situation, and people are scared to go there, but it has some of the most incredible parks, and Pamushana and the operation that Singita runs there is quite possibly one of the best. I love everything about that reserve and can't wait to go back one day. It's a very, very, very special part of the world.
RSA has a long history, over 90 years of being involved and even pioneering aspects of the conservation sector in South Africa. Over that long history, we have realized that all of the issues that we are facing both locally and globally are due to human impact. Therefore, we need to concentrate on working with people, and that is what WESA does. What makes me passionate about the work that we do at WESA, and in particular the work that I engage in, is actually connecting with people. Currently the work that I'm working on is working with youth in a skills development program, and just to meet the youth and to hear their stories and to bring them opportunities that we hope will have some impact on their lives really fuels me to get up every morning. A huge shout out to the women that I work with, as well as to all the women that are contributing hugely within the environmental sector, both in South Africa and in the world.
And I turned to Shaun and I saw that she had this panicked look on her face. Either she was afraid that something had happened, or she was afraid that she was going to miss out on something. But instead of her missing out on those lions, we drove up next to them and I switched off the car so that she could hear what was going on. Now, these lions had killed a kudu, and she could hear these two cubs, both 8 months old at the time, busy pushing and shoving each other out the way to get to the best parts of the meat. And the mom was lying just to the side in the shade. Now, I'd known that before losing her sight, Shaun probably knew what a lion looked like. But I really wanted her to know what this lion looked like. So for the first time in my guiding career, I started to describe to someone what a lion looked like. And I found that, I started to notice things in that lion that I'd never seen before.
Oh, it's going to be in trouble now. Oh, this is unbelievable stuff. Here comes a hippo in too. Go, Impala. There's a hippo coming in. I can't believe what we're seeing here. This is what we normally see in East Africa. It's all over. Hippo leaping at the crocodile now. Everything's gone underwater.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth Daily.
Well, still bumbling. We just checked Gallagher Pan. No sign of anything there. All quiet. No tracks even really to speak of, just some impalas that have come down to drink during the course of the day today. But otherwise, not much else, and one hyena that walked on this road last night. I was just saying to Morgan now, it's missed the days of driving past Gallagher Pan and Tingana was sitting there on his mound, or around the pan, or Hosana, or Tandi, or Kalamba. It's crazy how we had so many leopards on Djuma, and all of a sudden it just feels like they're all anywhere but Djuma at the moment. It goes like this. You get these ebbs and flows and cycles and changes, and it'll all come back together again at some point. It's got to be patient and let it happen. Just think about the changes I've seen in Djuma in 5 years, well, of being at WildEarth, but since 2010 in this area, or 11 actually, is when I first came onto Djuma. It's a lot has changed in those years, and dynamics of it's quite crazy to actually think about how many, we talk about training days, and think about the fact that when I was doing my training, the first time I came to the Sabi Sands was to do that little red-crested Quran, was to do like a interviews kind of weekend to see who they wanted to take on the course. There was, I think, about 15 guys that came on it, and they only had space for 8. So we came in, and I'd obviously spent a lot of time in Kruger, but I'd never been to the Sabi Sands or stayed in the Sabi Sands. I'd kind of driven into it, but never stayed in it. Anyway, we camped out at a little campsite on a drainage line called Big Black. And we stayed there for the weekend while we did these kind of walks and drives, and just to check where everybody was at. And the first morning we camped out and kind of woke up early, and you had to do, because we didn't have actually tents in that particular arrangement, you had to stay up in shifts at 2 hours at a time, watching out for animals while the guys slept. Our Quran has just moved off. And so we go through the night, we wake up in the morning, and we kind of making tea and coffee for everybody, and we started to hear the alarm calls start. And so we walked out of the campsite onto the nearest road just to see if we could see why the monkeys were alarming. And as we kind of walked onto the road, Ravenscourt came past, and as she was walking past, then popped out one male cub, the next male cub, and then Shinzele, her previous male cub. So the 4 of them, and they were just walking along the road, and it was like the introduction to the Sabi Sands. First morning, 4 leopards on the road walking towards us, and they walked past us, and we went back to the vehicle, picked up the vehicle and jumped in, and we drove down and watched them as they played. It was such a cool sighting. And you kind of think back to those days and how blown away it was to see those leopards, and then to see now how pretty much all of those cats are no longer, and how many others have come and gone since I've been here. It's pretty crazy, and it fills you with a lot of nostalgia and sadness at times, but also a lot of joy. There's memories there that will forever stay with me and forever be a part of me. Those memories of driving around this reserve for the last however many years will forever be special, and they've taught me a lot about life. I've learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about life through spending time with animals and with guests and all those kinds of things. So, training is a distant memory, but it still remains the best days that I've spent in the bush, just based off the ability to do what you wanted when you wanted, and to be like a little sponge, to go from not knowing anything to starting to understand and work out for yourself what's happening, to get to the point now where, finding things like leopards and stuff like that, there's an understanding that takes place. And to think back to that point where, kind of very wet behind the ears and didn't really understand much of these things, to where it is now is a pretty cool thing to think about. And it just goes to show that anybody can do it. It's not... So I think one of the things about guiding is that I don't think it's for everyone, but anyone can if they want to. If they really have a passion for this and they really want to do it, guiding there's a way to do it. It doesn't matter if you're not qualified right now. That can all be, sorted out. You can do training, you can find work and build yourself up to get to a point where you can go to the places you want to be and guide in the places you want to be. But I will say this, and it's just kind of with a disclaimer when I say all those things, is that if you ever want to be a guide, you need to understand that it's not all about you, and it's not all about what you want to do. The guests are number one and most important, and if you're not a people's person and you don't want to give a lot of yourself to be out here, then it's probably not the right job for you. Being a guide is a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of things that you've got to do that you're not going to enjoy, that you're not going to want to do. There's a lot of hours that you're going to spend doing jobs that you probably don't like. So if you can't kind of wrap your head around that it's not going to be a holiday and it's going to actually require some semblance of work, then maybe not the right thing. I see a lot of guides nowadays coming into the industry that think that they're going to come out here and they're going to be the world's greatest photographer and drive around and take photos and do everything for themselves. And it's sad when I see that, because that's not what it's about. What we do out here is important because it is a way of getting people to understand the natural world, connect them to it, link them to it, and then come away with a feeling of, wow, I learned something and I want to grow and I want to, invest more time and energy into understanding wildlife. And I think where WildEarth goes so right is that we have opened that ability to so many more people, and a lot of people have learned and started to understand and become far more interested in wildlife, more so than they were before they started watching WildEarth. And I think that's where guides need to aim to be, is doing things like that, finding your passion and then using it to create a kind of, I don't know what the word is for it, but to create an experience that leaves people learning and wanting more and growing, rather than just doing it all for yourself. So I just came down here because this giraffe looked like he wanted to cross the dam wall and I didn't want to go too close to him, so I just wanted to come around to view him here, but it seems like he wants to go this way rather. Absolutely beautiful pink sky. I know you can't see it with the infrared, it will look quite white, but this kind of pink sky in the background, and he is dark, this giraffe. I've seen him around a lot lately. There's 3 bulls that we're seeing that are So, Katie, I'll get to you now. But this giraffe, like I say, there's 3 of them that are dark like this. The one's got a very bad leg injury. They get these worms that get into their legs and cause these horrific wounds. So there's one that's got that, and then there's the 2 others, and one has got tatty ears. This is the one that's got the clean ears and quite clean face. He's still probably a fairly young individual compared to the other 2, but he's black. Beautiful animal. But Katie, you're saying, it's unique content, all these stories and things that we're talking about. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. It's something that I sometimes feel like we kind of don't talk about it a lot, and obviously the center stage with all of this stuff, I'm going to just try to go forward a bit for you, Morgan, is animals, and most of what we want to kind of talk about is animals. But there's a lot of people that watch WildEarth, and I get a lot of messages from people asking me about options and where to go and how to train and what to train. No, don't move now that we've got a nice spot. And how they go about becoming a guide, and a lot of the problems that I see is that people have a false idea of what guiding is about, and they look at Instagram feeds and they watch all these guides that post all these photos and portray this idyllic holiday lifestyle where nothing ever is difficult, and they get a wrong idea of what it is. So I think it's important sometimes to have these conversations for those of you that are planning to do this. It's the best job in the world if you have the passion and you're willing to make the sacrifices. And when I say sacrifices, you've got to understand that your life will basically not belong to you anymore. You won't be able to go to a birthday party. You won't be able to just have a kind of barbecue with friends or a braai with friends on the weekend. All of that changes. You become pretty much a slave to your passion. The giraffe's going to disappear, so let's carry on. You become a slave to your passion, and you end up doing things a lot for others more than for yourself. And the sacrifices in guiding is when you like I say, miss birthdays, or you have a death in the family and you can't even attend funerals or things like that. That's where the sacrifices come. And it's a hard existence, this. It's not just easy where you're like, oh, well, I'm going to go on game drive every day, but you can't just get things from the shop. You've got a headache and you don't have a headache tablet, well, you just got to suffer through it, or something like that. It's just, I think a lot of people forget there's that side of it. Not being with family is tough. I don't see my family much. In fact, I haven't seen my family now for over a year, any of them. So that's the cost of being a guide. But I will say that if you have the passion for it, there's nothing more rewarding than being out here. You learn so much. You get to see people's reactions and lives change by coming into a space that you call home, and I think that's a very powerful thing in many ways. But we'll stop and just admire our hippo for a little bit. I've come to the dam, as I was saying earlier, because there was that leopard that walked out. I don't think we've got an ID on it. I don't think anyone managed to get a positive ID. But if it was Shasha, you never know. Maybe now, because of it's cooled down, and we know that animals need water, and so some of them might have started making their way here, that he could have been milling about. That's why I've kind of come into this area, just to check around and see. But alas, doesn't seem to be any sign of him. It's also getting quite dark, so I'm just going to have to scrounge out my spotlight so that when we're driving I can actually spot something. I will say, actually, funny enough, now after being at Tumbeta for the last 8 nights, I had such epic nocturnal sightings. A lot of the time we talk about nocturnals and we're like, oh, hopefully we'll see this, hopefully we'll see that, and we never really do. But the last few nights I had crazy nocturnal sightings. So we had honey badger, serval, which is a big one, wildcat, white-tailed mongoose, gennet. We had a Meller's mongoose, another big one. I don't think... Have we ever put a Meller's mongoose on camera? I don't know if we have, actually. In my time, I'm not sure we have. So that was really cool. What else did we get? Lots of owls. We saw so many pearl-spotted owlets. It was pretty cool. So it was nice. It was nice to see a lot of nocturnal things moving around, and it's probably because we were finishing drive a lot later than we do on WildEarth. We were getting back sometimes 7:30, so it's possible that you're going to bump into the more nocturnal creatures at that time. But the serval and the Meller's mongoose were big ones for me. I really enjoyed seeing both of those. It's been a while since I've seen either of them. And the Meller's mongoose was super chilled. It was actually, funny enough, it was on Buffelshoek and ran into Djuma around Gallagher's shortcut area. It's around. We just hopefully we'll bump into it at some point. And for those of you that have no idea what a Meller's mongoose looks like, essentially very similar to a white-tailed mongoose, slightly smaller, but instead of the big white tail, it's got a big bushy black tail. So easy to kind of tell the difference between the two of them when you see the tail. Alright, so I'm going to carry on. We'll leave our hippo to itself. Let's do another loop around, see if there's anything kind of lurking or coming towards the dam area or quarantine.
Well, good luck, Tristan. I hope you have great success. So I'm just flipping this radio. So we're back at Twin Dam, just watching the last bit of the afternoon glow. And we did another loop. I couldn't see any tracks coming out for that leopard, so we're hedging our bet that it's going to come and drink. You can see how those trees are moving. The wind is picking up. We're slightly sheltered where we are. I don't know if you remember a couple of days ago we were talking about how, especially for the predators, the wind will help them. Definitely an advantage to the predators when they are hunting.
Well, unfortunately, my spotlight's not working either, so if it's not on the road, we're not going to be seeing it, unfortunately, this evening. Seems like, I don't know what's gone on today, but maybe the heat has just destroyed everything. Anyway, doesn't matter. So we're just bumbling south now. Nothing really. I mean, the radio is like deathly quiet. I haven't heard an update for about an hour and a half now from anybody. I know the guys were trying to look for the Talamati Pride on Buffelshoek. I don't know if they found them. Apparently they were chasing buffalo around lunchtime. Imagine that in the heat of today. Lions being active and chasing buffalo, it's ridiculous. So I don't know if they went into a big block there. Some of the Buffelshoek blocks are quite big, and maybe they're just battling to kind of find them. It doesn't seem like they've had much luck, and the buffalo are still milling around in that area. I'm sure tonight with this wind that the cats are going to be busy. Maybe the Talamatis will finally have some success. So Storm, I was waiting for somebody to ask about this. You're asking about rocks on the edge of the road that are aligned. It's mostly actually broken bricks that are being used, and what they do essentially is they're filling in areas that have eroded due to the heavy rains that we had during the summer. So we get these eroded gullies on the road, and then what they do is they pack the rock or brick in there, and then they'll cover it with gravel or with sand like you see on the normal roads. And that just stops when we get rain coming again. It stops, those bricks will not be pushed away by the flow of the water, so it will hold there, and they actually then trap sediment, and so it should fill that all nicely and stop further erosion in that section. So what's happened at the moment is they've been laid, but they haven't put the gravel over the top yet to cover it and to make it kind of back to normal. And over time, the cars driving over it, and rain and animals and all these things, so those bricks will start to slowly break down, and it will start to appear again much more like what you see here, rather than those ones that you saw a little bit earlier. But yeah, it's just active habitat management. They're doing quite a lot on the reserve to try and sort out roads, to also protect the marula trees. I'm sure a number of you might have seen marula trees with wire wrapped around them, and that's to try and just stop the elephants eating all these big beautiful trees that are on this property. They lost a lot of trees to elephants over the last 5 years because of the drought, and then the subsequent sort of good rains. The trees have really taken an absolute pounding. So all the biggest examples of marulas, knobthorns, have been wired like that, and basically the elephants, when their wire comes and they put their tusk there, they can't actually break the bark off, so they just leave the tree alone. It's part and parcel of trying to do active management. I don't know quite where I sit with it. I'm not 100% sure. Elephants were here and they do these things. The problem is that we've restricted their natural range so heavily that they can't move as far as they used to, and therefore the bush can't get the break that it should from these guys. But yeah, it's also there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes with that, is the management of water and all kinds of other things. I see a lot of people complaining about elephants in the Sabi sands, that there's too many and we shouldn't, something needs to be done. But at the same time, a lot of people have 7 pumped pans on their property, and then they wonder why in winter, when it's dry and there's no water anywhere else, and you're pushing fresh water from below ground to the surface, why elephants are here. I mean, it's fairly obvious, is that they're looking for clean water, and when they come for clean water, they have to eat in the process, and that's why they're damaging a lot of these areas. And if you look where there's big water holes that are pumped, you'll see the damage around those is far more extreme than anywhere else where there's no water. So, I think the water issue was also a part of this whole puzzle, and no one, I think, ever will fully understand what it is to manage these areas because we don't have a completely wild and natural landscape. Everything about the earth these days has been put under pressure due to growing numbers of people, and there really isn't a true wilderness left. If you think there's satellite coverage everywhere, there's cell phone networks, there's all kinds of things, and people have pretty much been into every space that exists on this earth. It's difficult to say that there is anywhere that is a true wilderness that is untouched. Our footprint and our mark has been left pretty much everywhere. So when it comes to managing things, I think, you try to do the best you can. Sorry, little scrub hairs. You try to do the best you can, and you try and mitigate circumstances and damage and try not to interfere as much as possible, but at some points in time, it's unfortunately the nature of the beast that... No, scrub hair. They're not very bright, I'm afraid. I just want to turn off my lights. They go off when your lights are off. Okay, then you say, great to have me back on your screen. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Nice to be back. It's crazy to think that it's approaching 5 years now of being at WildEarth. It certainly hasn't felt that long. It's been a pretty crazy journey to think back to the start of this. And we're talking about training earlier and how you develop and you get molded and all those kinds of things. And I think I'll forever be grateful for the time that I've had at WildEarth for a number of reasons, but probably the biggest was that I arrived at a time here where there was a seriously well-qualified group of guides, a lot of knowledge, a lot of empathy, and a lot of experience, and that meant that I got molded pretty quickly, and there was a lot of robust and interesting conversations. And while I had guided for a long time before that, certainly grew a lot in my time here. And so, if I look back to day one at WildEarth versus day whatever it is now, it has been a major progression. And I probably have lost a lot of information on random things, but I've gained so much, particularly in the leopard world. I mean, I've probably seen and spent more time with leopards than most people now in the world after being here. So very fortunate to have done that and forever be grateful for those experiences.
Hi, we are Yaku and Milani. We are from Gauteng in South Africa. We started watching WildEarth last year during the level 5 lockdown, and we've been watching ever since.
Being in nature is one of the greatest feelings. We absolutely love it. Our favorite thing about WildEarth is that the concept is so amazing. We have the benefit of having a wildlife safari in the comfort of your home, especially when you're not allowed to go out. Being part of the Wildlife Explorer program gives us a sense of giving back and contributing to nature. It just makes us feel good because we love it so much. We are so excited to be visiting Ngala. It is obviously, I think for most people, an absolute dream to visit the Masai Mara. We can't wait to go.
Thank you very much for this amazing prize, WildEarth.
WildEarth Explorers. It's in your nature.
Here at the Advanced Rifle Handling Challenge, which is actually lots of challenges in one to gauge the contestants' skills at different distances and different speeds. This is probably the challenge that the contestants are the most nervous about. So let's get them locked and loaded. Are now doing the Heron's halt, where they have to run back and forth to a target, turn, take aim and shoot. And this simulates a chase in a real environment and gets the heart pumping and the blood pressure up. James gave us a demonstration, and the skill involved in this exercise is remarkable.
Goodness, look at its wobbly legs. Oh, I don't believe it. I can't believe we've actually seen it. Oh my goodness. Oh, careful, careful, careful. Oh no. Oh, it's okay, little one. Okay.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
I think maybe just switch it on, Daza. So we've been watching the sun.
Switch what?
Is the IR on?
The IR is on.
Oh, we've just got a big body of water. So we're just waiting. We're at Twin Dams now. Hopeful for some sort of, well, I'm hoping for leopard audio. That would be really, really good. I wonder if I should just put my head there. I don't know how good that would be.
Tell a story, please.
Maybe I should tell a quick story. I was just picking up on what Tristan was talking about earlier, about sort of how privileged we are to I've got a very funny zebra story, but I don't think this is the right platform. Maybe I'll tell it on my Instagram page. But it's very funny. No, but just picking up on what Tristan said, like how privileged we are to be able to do this, come and drive around here and look for these animals and bring it to you at home. As guides, I'm definitely more used to, driving people that you meet at the lodges and having them in person. So it's a lot more intimate experience, but it's definitely not lost on us on how special it is to bring these sort of images. Well, unfortunately at the moment it's my face, but to try bring this wildlife into your lounge, so to speak. Obviously the downside is always being away from family. But at least this way they get to see me when I'm at work. Oh. Gwyn, you hit me with a question there. But I've thoroughly enjoyed this little stint. Tristan is on the move again. Go see what he's up to. And I think we're also going to go check a slightly different area, make our way back towards quarantine.
I'm glad Jonty's enjoyed his stint. It's been nice to have him here. It'll be sad not to see the giraffe running around camp. But yeah, it's been always a pleasure. Actually, I mean, I've only had one day with Jonty, but I feel like we've had a bit of fun today. And yeah, it's been a good laugh. So sad to see him go, but nice for Tessa to be out here for the first time to see what's going on and see how she'll enjoy it. Hopefully it'll be productive for her as well. But yeah. Morgan, are you sad to see Jonty go? Or are you jumping for joy in the back there?
I'm so terribly sad.
So terribly sad. Oh, Gwen, you'll have to tell Jonty that Morgan's shedding a tear over here. Tears, I'm not sure if they're of joy, because given that he's cackling like a evil witch, or if it's tears of sadness, but we don't have to go into specifics. Yeah, that's semantics. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly, Morgan. My favorite part about this drive finishing right now is that for the last probably 15 minutes, all I've done is drive in my own smoke. I mean, not smoke, actually dust is what I was trying to say. Smoke is because I was thinking about Wendy's engine, and it's just billowing past us. The wind is blowing so much from the south that it's pushing. So Jonty has just climbed onto our radio channel. So how it works is that our final control we have different channels per vehicle so that they can talk to us individually. Obviously we don't want to have to broadcast everything to everyone all the time, but he's just climbed on and has started singing Don't Cry For Me Argentina in my ear. So actually not a bad rendition. He did all right there, didn't he?
It wasn't bad.
It actually wasn't bad. I mean, he's not quite Madonna, but you know, he'll do. Anyway, we'll finish with a scrub here. Oh, wait, maybe not. Well, that didn't go according to plan. Morgan, we're going to have to be quicker than that. Oh, of course there is, Morgan. It's that kind of afternoon is where one tries to frame something and the bush kind of enters in, and that's what it is. You can see that it has been a tough slog out here this afternoon. Hot, now windy, animals not paying attention, cars breaking down, a few signal issues, but you know, we survived in the end. And Jonty singing, which has meant that I now have blood coming out of my right ear rather than tears out of my eyes. It's not ideal. Anyway, it's that time of the day for us to say goodnight. I hope you all had a wonderful evening with us and enjoyed the mud rolling, as well as a whole bunch of banter and a lot of nonsense. There's a sprinkling of animals in there as well, but hopefully you were entertained, and we look forward to having you on board with us in the morning. It should be a very different feel in the morning. I'm sure it's going to be a lot cooler and cloudier, and hopefully the animals will be out and about and that they won't be hiding like they did this afternoon. But from all of us, absolute pleasure as always. We shall see you tomorrow morning on our sunrise safari.